After the meeting, Allan went to Jing and said, "Jing, I don't want you to slip away, so I will take you to Gon." Jing smiled awkwardly. Originally, he really wanted to slip away after the meeting, but Allan didn't allow that. Without any other choice, Jing followed Allan to meet Gon. Jing also wanted to meet Gon, however, he felt guilty about leaving Gon to Mito instead of looking after him himself, so he couldn't bring himself to face his child. He felt that he was unqualified to be Gon's father. Allan knew about this and comforted Jing, "Don't worry, Gon won't blame you." "Really?" "Yes, I know Gon very well, better than you do." "It seems so." Jing gave a wry smile without denying this. After a phone call, Allan found out that Gon was training with Kite and Killua. Since the end of the battle with the Chimera Ants, they realized how weak they were and started training. Inside a villa a few dozens of kilometers away from the association, Gon and Killua were fighting against Kite. Even Kite felt the pressure from fighting those two together now, and he was quite surprised by the rate of their progress. However, without relying on Nen's abilities, they weren't Kite's match. After all, Kite was older and had much experience in combat. So, in terms of the basics, Kite was stronger than both of them combined. Kite also got to know them better from the fights. Gon was stronger than Killua since he was an enhancer, but Killua had better techniques. Killua was also deceptive. "Kite, you're really strong," Gon admired. "This is really good. It looks like you can help us become stronger," Killua said. "You two are strong as well and really talented. You are still young and have a bright future, but for now, you guys still can't win against me." After saying this, Kite directly kicked Gon and Killua. Both kids were thrown away and fell onto each other. "Damn it, Gon, let me handle him for a bit." Killua was dissatisfied, so he made Gon stay back and decided to use all of his power. Kite was quite interested now that Killua refused to admit defeat. Killua released his Nen and turned it into an electric current. With Killua's God speed activated, he became even faster than Kite. However, with Kite's experience, he can deal with Killua even with the additional speed. After that, Kite pointed out the shortcomings of Killua's ability, which was the lack of attacking power. Although the speed was good, the power was not enough. When facing a stronger opponent, as an enhancer, it will be difficult to cause them any harm. Therefore, Kite advised Killua to increase his attacking power while maintaining his speed. After Killua ended his spar, it was Gon's turn. But at this moment, two guests came from outside. They were obviously Allan and Jing. The scene of Gon meeting Jing was slightly awkward. Neither of them took the initiative to speak up. Jing scratched the back of his head, not knowing what to say. Allan sighed. Kite said, "Teacher, you're finally willing to see Gon." Hearing Kite's words, Killua said, "So, you're Gon's father, you look like him." Gon said, "Killua, this is actually my first time seeing Jing." "Shouldn't you call him father or dad?" Killua asked as he heard Gon call his father by name. "No, for now, I should call him by name, right?" Gon looked at Jing. Jing replied, "Well, you can call me Jing, you don't need to call me Dad." "Really weird father and son," Killua said speechlessly. It wasn't that Gon didn't want to call him father, but in a sense, they were strangers, since Gon knew nothing about Jing other than their blood relations. As for Jing, he was even more relaxed when Gon called him by his name instead of his father. Allan said, "You two can talk first, let go." After that, Allan took Kite and Killua and left temporarily, allowing Gon and Jing to talk. After they left, Gon said, "Jing, I have a lot to tell you, let's find a place to sit and talk." Jing nodded, "I know a nice place, I will take you there." Good. Gon was looking forward to it. "That place is called the World Tree, we will talk there." "World Tree?" Gon wondered. "Jing, it's the largest tree in the world. As long as you climb to the top, you can see beautiful scenery." Upon hearing this, Gon said, "Then let's hurry and go." Jing said, The place is quite far away, so I asked my partner to take us there. Jing's partner? Strictly speaking, it's a bird, a very big bird. Under Jing's call, a huge bird appeared in the sky and then landed on the lawn near the villa. Wow, that's really a big bird. Gon was stunned. It's a partner I brought from somewhere, and it helped me travel all over the world. After that, Jing took Gon and jumped on the back of the giant bird, and flew to the world tree. The world tree reached a height of 1,784 meters, which was several hundred meters taller than the tallest building in the world. Thousands of people challenged the tree to reach the highest peak without using any tools. However, ordinary people won't be able to reach the peak, as 90% of them would give up halfway from exhaustion. The other 5% died in accidents, and only the last 5% would enjoy the scenery at its peak. On top of the giant bird, Gon and Jing reached the top of the world tree. At the top, both started having a conversation all day and didn't leave until the next day. Gon learned a great deal of information from Jing. In particular, Gon learned about the current world that humans live in. The world was vast, very vast, and the current land humans govern was just a very small part of it. There were other continents besides the one inhabited by humans. Those continents were very dangerous. Humans won't be able to survive there. Gon also learned from Jing that the Chimera ant came from the other continents, one called Dark Continent. After gaining a new understanding of the world, Gon was eager and curious about the Dark Continent. As a hunter, he wanted to go on an adventure there. However, Jing told him that it's best to not go until he is 20, because the place was dangerous and even strong hunters died there. If you aren't strong enough, you can't go there. Even Jing wasn't sure he could come back from the Dark Continent if he went there. Gon promised Jing that he would not go until he was 20 years old. He still has 8 years to get stronger. When Jing saw Gon's determination, he smiled in relief. After that, Jing gave Gon some money and left him his contact information, before he temporarily returned to the Hunters Association. Gon, on the other hand, returned to Kite's villa. 1. In order to become stronger, Gon and Killua trained together with Kite. As for Allan, he lived leisurely. For him who learned the law of space, he was no longer busy training. On the other hand, Netero formally submitted his resignment letter to the 12 Zodiacs and the V5. The V5 is another name for the 5 major powers. The Hunter Association is supported by the V5. This is the reason that the Hunter license had so much privilege around the world. Netero's resignation needs to be accepted by the V5 before he steps down, and if they don't agree, Netero could only continue being the chairman. Fortunately, the V5 executives finally agreed to let Netero resign. When Netero announced his retirement, it caused a lot of discussion around the world. In the decades that Netero held his position, he deeply influenced many people, especially the hunters. A few days later, Netero sent an official email to all members of the association to inform them about the election of the new chairman. After the hunters heard about the election, they rushed back from all over the world. Allan, Kite, Gon, and Killua also received the email and went to the association. When they reached the association, Allan and the others met Leorio and Kurapika, who they didn't see for a long time. Gon was the most excited and happy about this reunion. He went and told them about the fight with the Chimera ants, which made them understand the danger humanity faced. Besides them, even Hisoka came to the association. Although Gon and the others were surprised that Hisoka was here, they didn't say much. After all, Hisoka was a hunter. Hisoka was pleasantly surprised by Gon and Killua's growth. However, because Allan was there, he didn't dare look at them in any way. 2 days later, the chairman's election started. There were around 635 hunters in the association currently. According to the statistics, a total of 606 hunters came to vote for the new chairman. On the day of the election, the association was very lively. In addition to them, some members of the V5 came to supervise the election to ensure fairness. Since the founding of the association, there were only 12 chairmen, and the 12th was Netero. Since Netero was retiring, it was time to elect the 13th chairman. Netero stood on the edge of the stage looking at the audience who were hunters who came to vote. As a triple-star hunter, Allan was in the first row. Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio were in the second row. Other familiar faces were present, like Kite, Morel, Nav, and others. Hisoka was sitting on the row before last. Next to him was a very vacant space. No hunter was willing to sit next to him. They all felt that Hisoka was too dangerous and didn't dare sit there. If any hunter had a bit of knowledge, they would know of Hisoka, and even the 12 zodiacs didn't dare provoke him. Everyone was curious and surprised that such a dangerous person came to vote for the new chairman. Everyone, quiet down. Netero's voice stopped all discussions in the hall. Let's start the election now. Before we start voting, I will ask the 12 candidates to come out and give a speech. The first person that came out was Pariston. After introducing himself, he went on and said, I have served as the vice chairman for 3 years now and I learned a lot from Chairman Netero. Working with him made me understand the requirement for this position. First of all, it requires strength. As a professional hunter, you need to be strong, but as chairman of the entire Hunter Association, this position needs strength above all others. The second thing needed was the experience of being a professional hunter and managing the affair of the association. The third requirement is temperament. This is referring to the capacity to forgive and withstand oppression from others. People with limited resources can't hold the chairman position. If I have the chance to be the next chairman, I will definitively work to manage the association better and ensure further development. After Pariston finished his speech, the next to speak was Myziastum Nana, who didn't give a normal speech but instead explained that he didn't want to be the next chairman and wanted whoever was going to vote for him to give that vote to Jing Freaks. After that, the Zodiacs each gave a different kind of speech. After the 12 finished their speeches, only 4 expressed their intention to become the next chairman. Jing also expressed that he had no interest in becoming the new chairman, and hoped that no one would vote for him. In addition to Jing, the other 3 were Badobai Higante, the dragon, Pariston, the rat, and Cheetil the dog. Netero returned to the stage and said, Then, let's start the votes now. Each person can vote for one candidate, and the one with the highest votes will be the new chairman. After saying this, the voting process started. The 12 zodiacs stood on the stage with a box in front of them. Hunters who voted only needed to write their names on a piece of paper and then drop it in the box. Allan, who do you want to vote for? Kite walked toward Allan and asked. Well, I plan to vote for Badobai Higante, Allan said. Mr. Badobai Higante is indeed a good candidate, but I decided to vote for Jing since he is my teacher, Kite said. Gon heard that Kite was planning to give his vote to Jing and said, Jing said he doesn't want to be the chairman, so Kite, you should give your vote to someone else. Then Gon, who are you going to vote for? Kite asked. I don't know much about the Zodiacs, but judging from their speech, I decided to vote for Pariston. After hearing this, Kite said, Gon, do you know that Pariston and your father had a very rocky relationship? They think differently, and although they are not enemies, they think too differently. They are kinda rivals. It turns out that Pariston is Jing's rival. I will give my vote to someone else then, I have to think about it, Gon said. Killua, how about you? Seeing Gon struggling, Allan asked Killua. Whatever, I don't care who will be the next chairman anyway, Killua replied. Then, you have to choose someone to support, Allan said. Then just like you, I will give my vote to Mr. Badobai Higante, Killua decided. Allan nodded and then asked, what about you, Leorio, Kurapika? Who are you voting for? Kurapika replied, I decided to vote for Ms. Cheetil. After that, each one voted for someone they wanted to support. When Allan went to vote, he happened to meet Hisoka and asked, who did you vote for? Hisoka glanced at Gon and said, I voted for Gon's father. After that, everyone returned to their seats. The staff started counting the votes and Netero finally come to announce the result of the election. Everyone, the votes have been counted, and there are 600 valid votes and only 6 didn't vote. Following that, Netero announced the votes of the 12 candidates. In the last place is Pione with 19 votes. The 11th place was Gel, with 20 votes. In 10th place was Sakoko Bayakawa, with 23 votes. The 9th place is Ginta, with 24 votes. The 8th place is Seiyu, with 27 votes. The 7th place is Kanzai, with 30 votes. The 6th place is Cluck, with 37 votes. In 5th place was Mizayistam Nana with 41 votes. In 4th place was Cheeto, with 60 votes. Netero stopped in the 4th place without announcing the last 3. The remaining 3 were Jing, Pariston, and Badabai Higante. The 3 of them had most of the votes and one of them will be the next chairman. Allan and the others started guessing who will get 3rd place and so on. Gon, do you think your father will get the 1st place? Asked Killua. Gon shook his head and said, I don't think so. You felt so? Allan asked. Yeah. Gon nodded. Leorio said, I think Jing should be 2nd place. Kurapika had a different view as he said, I think Jing is either in the 1st or 3rd place. Hearing this, Leorio said, do you want to be? Okay, what do we bet on? Kurapika asked. How about 100,000 Jenny? Leorio said. No problem, Kurapika replied. Then I will bet that he will get the 2nd place, Leorio said. Kurapika thought for a bit and said, then I bet that he got the 1st place. At this time Allan said, why don't you let me in too? Kurapika and Leorio nodded at the same time and said, no problem, so what place do you think Jing will get? Allan said, I will bet he got 3rd place. What? Both Leorio and Kurapika felt something weird. From the way everyone voted, Jing should be 1st or 2nd place. Of course, Pariston and Badabai Higante were also popular. After a while, Netero announced the number of votes for the 3rd place, which was, sure enough, Jing with 90 votes. Allan guessed right and won the bet. Leorio and Kurapika each gave Allan 100,000 Jenny. Allan put them away happily. Killua said, I knew that I should have bet on Jing getting 3rd place. Leorio murmured, you're only saying that now. Allan smiled, the 1st and 2nd place is not announced yet, so let's bet on who is 1st and 2nd, and this time we'll also use 100,000 Jenny. Then I will bet that the new chairman will be Pariston, Leorio said confidently. Allan then said, then I will be on Badabai Higante. Leorio smiled, this time I will win, you won't be so lucky each time. Allan smiled back, then let's wait and see. Following that, everyone else also gave their bets. Kurapika said, I will also bet on Mr. Badabai Higante. Me too, Killua continued. Then, we'll play as well, I will also bet on Mr. Badabai Higante, Gon said. Hearing this, Leorio was speechless, you guys are that confident that Badabai Higante will get the 1st place? At this moment, Leorio was a bit shaken, but he placed his bet first, so he can't change it now. If he wins the bet, he would get 400,000 Jenny, but if he lost, he will have to give that amount all at once. Finally, Netero announced the 1st and 2nd places, which were 114 votes for Pariston, and 115 for Badabai Higante. Therefore, in this election, Badabai Higante won and became the chairman. Badabai Higante was one of the closest people to Netero and he had both strength and reputation. So, no one was dissatisfied with him. Leorio sighed. Killua rubbed it in, Leorio, you lost. Leorio was helpless, so he could only give out the 400,000 Jenny to the 4 of them. He could only accept this loss. After the election, Badabai Higante became the 13th chairman of the Hunter Association. The vice chairman was still Pariston, and the former chairman, Netero, officially retired. At the succession ceremony, Badabai Higante declared that he will manage the association to the best of his ability and won't disappoint everyone's expectations. The next day, most hunters were leaving, and at this time, Gon saw Jing again. This is their second meeting and it wasn't as awkward as the first one. After Jin and Gon chatted casually, Jin asked Gon about his next plan. Gon said that he will go train for the time being. Jin nodded and expressed his support. After that, Gon asked about Jing's plan. Jin explained that he will visit new places on the Dark Continent. Since he was talking about the Dark Continent, Jin explained that Gon needed 4 things to prepare before he can go there. The first is the license, which was a special license issued by the V5. Because the Dark Continent isn't a place can go as they please, they needed permission first. Following that were the means, qualifications, and contracts which Jing didn't explain. Because the license wasn't something easily obtained. The conversation between Jing and Gon was headed by Allan, who was interested and said to Jing, "When are you going to the Dark Continent? Remember to contact me before you go, I will come with you." Hearing this, Jing said, "No problem, you even eliminated the Ant King, which shows your power." After that, Jing left. Allan, Gon, and the others were going to part ways. Before that, they each talked about their next destination and plans. Kite said that he would continue his previous work and look for new biological creatures and prevent other chimera ants-like creatures from emerging. After hearing this, Gon wanted to go along with Kite to train. Kite agreed to this and decided to take Gon along. Gon later asked Killua if wanted to join him, but Killua refused, saying, "I'm sorry, Gon, I have to go back home, I can't accompany you to train for a while." Gon didn't force this as Killua's family was special. Killua then added, "I will look for you and Kite when I'm done." Gon nodded then asked Leorio and Kurapika about what they will do next. Leorio explained, "I have obtained a medical certificate and I'm a doctor now, I'm ready to help people and make a lot of money." Kurapika on the other hand said, "I will continue to trace my tribe's eyes and look for Krollo's whereabouts." Allan then said, "If you want to find Krollo or the spiders, you can go to Meteor City, that is their hometown." "Meteor City, I will go there then," Kurapika said. "Allan, where are you going?" Gon asked. Allan thought for a while before he said, "I'm going back to the Heavens Arena, because Killua's brother, Kalito is waiting for me there, I'm going to see him." Allan took Kalito to the Heavens Arena to train, and it has been a while so he didn't know what's Kalito's situation now. After that, everyone went their separate ways. The Heavens Arena was hundreds of kilometers away from the Hunter Association, but Allan didn't have to take any means of transportation, as he just casually teleported there in less than 5 minutes. After arriving at the Heavens Arena, Allan directly went to look for Kalito, but he didn't find him there. Allan directly contacted Zeno to see if Kalito returned home, but he replied that Kalito didn't return and he couldn't even contact him. This made Allan anxious since he was the one who took Kalito away. He felt responsible for this, so he tried to search for Kalito till one day, Allan was finally able to reach Kalito's phone. Kalito explained that he joined an organization and was training in that organization, so Allan didn't need to worry. Kalito didn't specify which organization he joined, but Allan guessed it was the Phantom Brigade. It must be that Krollo attracted Kalito's attention and made him curious about the Phantom Brigade. Since Kalito said there is nothing to worry about, Allan didn't intervene. As long as the Phantom Brigade didn't provoke him, Allan wouldn't care about them. After leaving the Heavens Arena, Allan decided to go to some restricted areas around the world. Time flew by and a year passed. On a small island somewhere, a red-haired pig was being roasted on fire. In front of the fire, a young man was staring at it waiting patiently to try this delicacy. This young man was of course Allan, and next to him was a young woman. This woman was short, wore a black transparent short-sleeves top, and had a starfish-like hairstyle. She of course wasn't an ordinary woman, but a single-star gourmet hunter, Menki. 1 year ago, Allan and Gon went each their separate way, and 2 months ago while Allan was adventuring around, he met Menki, who was looking for some exquisite food. Menki's former partner was Buara, but he died facing the Chimera ants. After that accident, Menki didn't look for a new partner and instead started journeying by herself. After meeting Allan, Menki felt that it was fate and invited him to join her in looking for delicacies. Allan agreed to be Menki's temporary partner. Menki also felt safer with Allan around, since he was quite strong. There is always danger around rare ingredients and exquisite animals, so bringing Allan along with guaranteed safety. As for Allan, he was bored traveling alone, so he decided to join Menki in her adventure to find food. In fact, whether it was Allan or Menki, adventuring alone would get boring and make them feel lonely sometimes, so they can share the joy of traveling when they are together. In the past 2 months, Allan gained a new understanding of food. For example, the red-haired pig that was being roasted was caught by him. In the eyes of a gourmet hunter, this pig was a level 1 capture target, which meant that even 10 strong men couldn't capture it. To capture it, you need 10 hunters with powerful skills. The habitat of the red-haired pigs was generally the jungles, cliffs, canyons, and other places. The meat was soft and juicy, it only needed to be grilled on the fire without adding anything. It's a premium ingredient that can only be found in a 5-star restaurant. Hey, Menki, it has been roasting for more than an hour, can I eat now? I'm hungry already. Hearing Allan's words, Menki raised her head and said, not yet, the red-haired pig's body is huge, it needs 2 hours to roast at least, you should bear it for now. Okay, I will wait. In order to eat delicious meat, Allan could only hold back and wait. During the 2 months with Menki, Allan was spoiled too much and ordinary food can't entice him anymore. Only high-quality delicacy and satisfy him now. The fragrant smell of the meat attracted many small animals. After some time, Allan finally tore off a large piece from the pig's leg and ate it. Menki said, the red-haired pig is a high-quality ingredient, 100 grams of it can be sold for 80,000 jenny. This pig weighs at least 300 kilograms, so it's not affordable for most people and priceless in the market. We are lucky to find it on such an island. Unexpectedly, the price of this pig is so high. It seems that I won't have to worry about food following you, Allan said. That's for sure, as long as you follow me, you can eat delicacies 10 times better than this, Menki boasted. Being a gourmet hunter is really good. I think I will convert into one as well, Allan said. Hearing this, Menki said, if you want to eat delicious things by becoming a gourmet hunter, then it's impossible to be an excellent one. Allan was puzzled, what do you mean? Does it need other conditions? Of course, if you want to be gourmet hunter, you must have enough knowledge of the ingredients and have decent cooking techniques. If you just want to eat, that's not gourmet hunter. I understand. Although I don't know most of the ingredients, I will study hard to be an excellent gourmet hunter. Seeing that Allan was enlightened, Menki patted his shoulder and said, just follow me, you will be a great gourmet hunter just doing that. Allan nodded. Menki was a single-star gourmet hunter and is an expert. He would learn a lot about food by just following her. Half an hour later, the red-haired pig was eaten by Allan and Menki. Menki said, in fact, high-end ingredients are not only delicious, but they also have some effects that ordinary ingredients don't. For example, some high-grade ingredients can enhance physical power, some of them can even prolong life. Allan was surprised, is it that magical? It's true, but those kinds of ingredients are very rare. You can't find them easily and most of them are in highly dangerous areas. Allan curiously asked, what do you mean? There are some areas with those kinds of ingredients? Menki nodded, yes, I know some places that have those ingredients. Where? Allan asked curiously. Menki didn't answer directly, but instead asked, Allan, have you been to some places outside of the world's map? Allan frowned and said, outside the map? Do you mean the Dark Continent? Hearing Allan mentioning the Dark Continent, Menki was surprised, do you know that place? Well, It is said that there are all kinds of creatures there and the chimera ants originated from that place, Allan said. Menki nodded and said, yeah, the Dark Continent is a mysterious place, there is barely any information about it, and each time a human sets foot on it, they will bring back a disaster. That's why the V5 signed a treaty prohibiting any humans from going there without their permission. I heard that Chairman Netero has been there before, Allan said. Yes, Chairman Netero has indeed been there, and he is one of the few people who returned successfully, Menki replied. Allan asked confusedly, then when you were talking is not the Dark Continent? What do you mean the outside world? Menki replied, I wasn't talking about the Dark Continent. Allan couldn't help his curiosity, then what are talking about? Are there other places outside the world? Menki said seriously, actually, based on my personal experience, I learned that there are other continents besides the Dark Continent. Allan nodded and listened intently. It's different from the Dark Continent, humans live there. How do I get there? Allan asked. If there are other continents with humans in this world, it will be a huge discovery. Do you know the Bilgi Desert? Menki asked. Allan thought for a bit then nodded, well, I've heard about it. It is said to be one of the 3 biggest and harshest places in the world. A very dangerous place. Menki explained, the Bilgi Desert is located in the Republic of Rocario. Only licensed hunters can enter that area. Hearing this, Allan complimented, Menki, you really know a lot about this, are you going there in the future? However, what I want to know is, what does that desert have to do with the continent where other humans live? Menki thought for a while before she said, as far as I know, the Bilgi Desert seems to have a passage to the outside world. Allan seemed really excited, where is that passage? How did you know about it? I went to the Bilgi Desert once, and when I was looking for food, I saved a person in that desert. Hearing this, Allan pondered, it seems like this person wasn't an ordinary person. Could it be a human from the outside world? Menki said, the language he spoke was different from our own, but the pronunciation was similar. As a gourmet hunter, I'm familiar with many languages, so I quickly come to understand what he's saying. What surprised me was this person was a gourmet. Because of some accident, this person came to our world by chance. In fact, he didn't know that he came to a different continent or world at all. But while communicating with him, I learned that he didn't come from our world. According to him, he came from the outside world. Therefore, I learned that our current world isn't the only place with humans. What's that person's name? Allan asked curiously. He is called Komatsu, Menki said. Komatsu? TN, Toriko's cook, or whatever, didn't actually watch Toriko. Allan frowned. The name is familiar, but he couldn't remember where he heard it. The name was quite ordinary, so it wouldn't be strange that he heard it from somewhere. Immediately afterward, Allan asked, where is that Komatsu now? Has he gone back? Menki nodded, well, Komatsu already left. When he left, he invited me to go with him. But I refused because, at that time, I still fear the outside world. This fear originated from the Dark Continent. I started wondering whether Komatsu was from the Dark Continent or not, but after reading some ancient books, I discovered that there are many unknown areas in the world besides the Dark Continent. It was unknown whether these areas were inhabited by humans or not, but from what I have experienced, it seems that some of them have humans. So, I believed what Komatsu said and knew that there are other humans on other continents. After hearing this, Allan was lost in thought. After a long time, he raised his head and looked at Menki. You told me about this, do you want me to accompany you there? Yeah, but to be precise, I want to leave this continent and see the outside world, not necessarily go to the continent where Komatsu is located, because I think there are many unknown places in the world, Menki explained. Before setting off to Bilgi Desert, Allan thought of a person, so he suggested to Menki, going to the outside world is a very risky thing, we don't know anything about those places. If we get someone who traveled to the outside world before, it should be safer. Hearing this, Menki thought of someone. The person she thought about is obviously the same one Allan thought about. Because only a handful of people actually went outside the world and returned. Isaac Netero, the former chairman of the Hunter Association, was someone who traveled to the Dark Continent and returned back safely. He is one of the few that knows the outside world. Menki looked at Allan and said, "Are you going to look for Chairman Netero to go with us?" Allan smiled and nodded. Chairman Netero is retired now, and he has all the time to adventure. Since he doesn't have anything to do, I think he is currently very bored. So, we might as well invite him to go with us. Furthermore, Chairman Netero is someone who returned safely from the Dark Continent. He should know about the other places better than we do. I also think the Chairman Netero wants to see the outside world again, so let's take this opportunity to invite him. He should agree. Menki thought for a while and agreed with Allan. If it was someone else, she wouldn't agree, but it is Netero, he would be of great help. Okay. This meant that it is up to you to convince him. Rest assured, Chairman Netero will agree. If it was someone else, Allan wouldn't dare guarantee this, but Netero will definitively agree. Netero owed him his life since he saved him using the Senzu bean. Furthermore, Netero appreciated and admired Allan's strength. Allan contacted Netero and the call was quickly connected. Netero was curious and surprised by Allan's call. Because he knew that Allan wouldn't just call to ask about his situation, and there must be something important for the call. Through the conversation, Allan learned that Netero is living a secluded life alone deep in a mountain. Although life was plain, it was comfortable enough. After talking about the situation briefly, Allan invited Netero. Hearing that Alana and Menki were going to the outside world, Netero said strangely, "Going to the Dark Continent is forbidden by the V5, even if you are a professional hunter, you can't go without their permission. Furthermore, even if you want to go, I'm afraid you won't know the route toward the Dark Continent." Facing Netero's doubt, Allan smiled and said, "Chairman, you have misunderstood, we aren't going to the Dark Continent, but to other continents in the outside world." "What, other continents?" Hearing this, Netero was silent for a moment before he said, "It looks like you know a lot, you actually know about the other continents besides the Dark Continent." Hearing Netero's answer, Allan was overjoyed. This meant that Netero knew about the other continents. Netero thought for a few seconds before he said, "Well, I will meet with you first, then we will talk in detail." This way, Allan told Netero his current location and waited for him to come over. 3 days later, on the same small island, Menki and Allan were roasting a beast on the fire. "It's been 3 days, will Chairman Netero really come? Did he stand us up?" that old man. While cutting off a piece of the beast's leg, Menki complained. Allan on the side was much calmer. "This place is very far and remote, even if he took an aircraft, it would take him 2 days and a half at least. If he is coming by boat, it will take several days. Just wait patiently and have some trust in Chairman Netero." Menki said, "I don't have your patience, I will just wait another day. If he doesn't come, I will ignore that smelly old man." "Okay, no problem." Allan was confident that Netero will come soon, so he agreed with Menki to appease her. At an altitude of several kilometers, a huge bird was flying in the clouds. On the back of the giant bird, 2 old men stood. The first old man sat cross-legged on the head of the bird, looking down to the ground under the clouds. The old man wore a blue and white kimono, he had a thick beard like a goat and a ponytail. His earlobes were long and he seemed like a peaceful Buddha. The other old man stood on the back of the giant bird with his hand behind his back. Although his hair and beard were white, his eyes were sharp. He was wearing a shirt that had the words 1 killion a day, never retire. "Well, Chairman, the island you're talking about should be the one below," Zeno reminded. "Okay, let's go down," Netero said. When the giant bird started descending, Allan and Menki noticed it. Allan had sharp eyes and directly noticed the 2 people on top of the bird. One was Isaac Netero, and the other was Zeno Zoldyck. As the giant bird landed, both old men jumped off. Allan and Mankey greeted them and the latter said, "Old man, you're too slow." Netero scratched his head and smiled, Sorry. He knew Mankey's temperament and that his tardiness will cause Mankey's dissatisfaction. So he could only laugh it off. At this moment, Allan said, "Chairman, Mr. Zeno, it's been a long time since we last met." Netero glanced at Allan up and down before he said, "I haven't seen you in a year and it seems like you are still as energetic as before." Zeno asked, "I heard that you're a gourmet hunter now?" Allan nodded and said, "The pursuit of food is also a type of training." Zeno touched his beard and said, "Well, it's good to be a gourmet hunter, but if you come to learn to be an assassin, it would be better." After chatting for a while, Allan turned to Netero and asked, "By the way, Chairman, why did you come with Mr. Zeno? Is he going with us?" Hearing this, Zeno shook his head, "I'm an assassin, I can't just go as I want. I still have my family's business and can't travel far away. Besides, this old man is not interested in the outside world." Netero explained, "I just asked Zeno to bring me over because it's more convenient than taking an aircraft." "I see." Allan glanced at the giant bird behind Zeno. It didn't seem smaller than the guard dog of the Zoldyck. At this time, Netero's nose twitched as he sniffed. "It smells so good. What are you guys cooking?" "Red-haired pig," Allan said. Zeno said, "That's a beast with a very harsh temperament. You actually eat it?" Allan replied, "Although it's fierce, it is also very delicious. It's a very high-end ingredient." Zeno sniffed and said, "Well, it's really fragrant." Netero asked, "Do you mind sharing some food with us two old men?" "Enjoy yourselves." Allan smiled lightly. After eating so much of the red-haired pig, Allan and Mankey don't find its meat attractive anymore. But Netero was different. It was his first time eating this type of meat, which directly hit the spot for him. In less than 10 minutes, most of the red-haired pig was eaten, leaving only its skeleton. Zeno only ate a little bit. Netero said, "This meat is really delicious." Netero ate faster than Allan and Mankey together. Even the latter was surprised. "Chairman, you eat too fast, and you have such a big appetite, you really opened my eyes." Netero laughed and said, "When I was young, I could eat more than this. My best record was eating 10 wild boars." Allan and Mankey really admired Netero's amazing appetite. At an altitude of several kilometers, a giant bird flew in the clouds. On top of the giant bird sat Netero, Zeno, Allan, and Mankey. Thanks to Netero bringing Zeno, they could go to their destination directly. The Bilgi Desert is located in the Republic of Rocario. There were several other countries close by like the MGL. Due to the Chimera Ants invasion, those countries close by were taken over by the V5. While they were on their way, Netero expressed his doubt about their destination. Mankey directly answered his question. After hearing her brief explanation, Netero was surprised that the Bilgi Desert had access to the outside world. Allan also took this opportunity to ask Netero about the Dark Continent. Netero didn't answer directly but first said, "The world which we humans currently live in has 6 continents, 10 regions, and thousands of countries. And these areas added up are on a huge lake called the Mobius. This Mobius Lake, which carries billions of people, is just a small part of this vast world. The Dark Continent is just outside of the Mobius Lake, which is called the Outer World in ancient books. But in fact, the Dark Continent, like the Mobius Lake, is just another small part of the world. No one actually knows how large the world outside of the Mobius Lake is. There is no way to know how many areas have life. Someone must explore and take the risk to get that knowledge. So, what is outside the Mobius Lake? How far is it from the Dark Continent?" Allan asked curiously. Netero recalled for a bit. "The land we live on is surrounded by an ocean. On the outskirt of the Mobius Lake, there is a Black Sea. Decades ago, I left the Mobius Lake and it took me several months to cross the vast sea, before finally reaching the border of the Dark Continent." Hearing this, Allan started thinking, since the whole world they are currently on is surrounded by the Mobius Lake, then why would there be a way out inside the Bilgi Desert? In the desert, Is there a space-time gate? Warp holes? Now, Allan started getting skeptical about Menki's story. He even wondered if Menki had deliberately fabricated a lie to deceive him. But he quickly threw this thought away. He was with Menki for a long time and knew about her character better than most people. So what Menki said should be true, and there is no possibility that she was deceiving him. A day later, Allan and Menki along with Netero reached the Republic of Rocario with Zeno's help. There are many restrictions here, even its own people can't just enter and leave as they wished. Only officials and hunters can enter. The Bilgi Desert was a restricted area. Just because this desert is extremely dangerous and many people went missing there, which made that desert known as the Lost Land. Despite the effort of many rescue teams, not a single missing person was found. The rescue teams didn't just fail to find people, they even lost their way there and joined the list of missing people. Because of the many disappearances in that desert, it is a restricted area. In recent years, only a few people entered the desert. From the back of the giant bird that was several thousand meters in the sky, Allan, Menki, and Netero jumped down. Allan looked at Zeno and said, "Mr. Zeno, thank you for giving us a ride, you saved us a lot of time." Zeno nodded and said, "Then I will go back, I wish you all success." After jumping down, Menki pulled out a map and said, "Now, we are about 20 kilometers away from the nearest town. We can go to this town to find a place to rest, and then go to the local farm to get a few horses, get some supplies and then go on our way." Allan and Netero didn't have a problem with this plan and direct all three of them went to find a hotel. This place didn't have any large hotels, no cars, no technology can be seen at all. Their mean of transportation was mostly horses and cart, or oxen and carts. The standards of living here are way behind most parts of the world. Because the nearest area to this place was a desert, water was very precious, and poor people couldn't even afford some of it. They needed to move more than 10 kilometers from the town to get some water. Menki came here before, so she was familiar with the place, so she explained the current situation in this region. The three of them rented 3 horses from the farm nearby. The horses weren't ordinary horses, but desert horses that are used to the harsh environment. After resting for the night, the 3 of them set off on the back of the horses. When they were close to the Bilgi Desert, 3 patrol officers stopped them from entering the desert. Allan, Netero, and Menki showed their hunter licenses and explained that they were going in to do a biological investigation. With the license, the patrols couldn't stop them anymore. The patrol officer still warned them about the danger of the desert and explained that if they get in danger, then no one will come to rescue them. The trio just laughed, because if they can't come back, probably, no one can in this world. In the endless desert, Allan, Netero, and Menki each rode on a horse crossing through the sandy lands. Bilgi Desert was one of the most dangerous places on the continent. Since the founding of the Republic of Rocario, more than 100,000 people lost their way and were declared missing in the Bilgi Desert. 15 years ago, the Bilgi Desert was listed as a restricted area. But every year, there are some adventurous people who would ignore the danger and bypass the inspection to enter the desert illegally. This means that the 100,000 missing people were just the ones who came in legally. There are a few lucky ones who would enter the desert and come back safely. But after a while, the place was rumored to have a man-eating monster and illusions that make people get lost inside. In short, this desert had countless rumors about the dangers it contained, but everyone knew that this place was dangerous no matter the rumor. On the way, Menki reminded Netero and Allan, "This desert is very strange, I don't know when the weather would change and become a sandstorm, so be careful, or else we will get separated." Netero and Allan nodded. They weren't arrogant people to think they can take everything in the world, especially not when faced with the danger of a natural environment. Allan wasn't that concerned about danger though, because the law of space granted him protection from almost anything. Netero was one of the strongest nen users in the world, and with his Buddha, he can face most danger without losing. The only one who isn't as well equipped is Menki, but with her experience in wild environments, she can survive. As long as they take precautions, they won't have a problem. At this moment, a sandstorm started forming in the distance. Seeing this, the three of them directly found a place to hide temporarily. But the sandstorm started getting bigger and bigger till it became huge and a tornado was formed. Damn it, an Emperor Dragon's tornado. Emperor Dragon's tornado? Simply put, it's a sandstorm combined with a tornado, and the largest scale of this kind of phenomenon was hundreds of tornadoes. The power it holds is so strong I don't think anyone can actually survive after being close to it. Allan and Netero frowned. If it was an ordinary tornado, they were able to deal with it, but if it's of that size, they could only escape. The tornado was slowly approaching them. Seeing this, Netero was ready to activate his Nen ability to defend against the tornado. At this time, Allan said, "Chairman, Menki, stretch out your hand." Hand? Both Menki and Netero were puzzled. "There is no time to explain, just give me your hands." Hearing this, Menki and Netero grabbed Allan's hands and decided to believe him. Allan immediately took their hands and suddenly they felt something strange happening, as if strange energy was flowing into their bodies. The next second, the three of them disappeared. On the horses remained there. A few seconds later, the tornado swept the horses and all the supplies along with them. 10 kilometers away from the storm, Allan, Menki, and Netero appeared out of thin air. Menki was surprised. What's going on? She raised her head to look into the distance and saw that the tornado was moving away from them. She felt like she was in an illusion. Did the storm move away or did we move away? Even Netero was puzzled by this, but he quickly calmed down and said, "It looks like we moved far away from the storm." The two turned toward Allan as the latter explained, "We are now 10 kilometers away from the tornado, we are safe." Netero said, "You took us 10 kilometers away in the blink of an eye, I didn't expect you to have this ability." Allan shrugged, "Well, I have the power to manipulate space. I just teleported us away from the tornado. I can only teleport things I touch, and I can pass through anything in the way no matter the obstacle, but creating a space channel and moving at the speed of light. That's a pretty powerful ability." Netero's words weren't flattery, but admiration. This is the first time he encountered such a thing as teleportation. It was simply a magical ability. Menki patted Allan's shoulder and said, "In short, thanks to you, we are alive. I can tell that even with our Nen, I and Chairman would have been swallowed by that tornado." Allan knew that no matter the power, it can't be compared to the power in nature. Allan then sighed, "Although we managed to escape safely, the horses and supplies are gone. We can only use whatever we have on us now." Netero replied, "There is nothing we can do about that." Menki glanced at the sky and said, "It's getting dark, so let's find some place to rest because the temperature of this place during the night will be quite cold." As night fell, the group of three found a place in the desert to rest. As their supplies and horses were swept away by the tornado, they didn't have anything to eat. Fortunately, they were all Nen users and their vitality was quite strong, so even if they don't eat for a while, they won't have a problem. But the feeling of hunger is making them uncomfortable, especially Allan. He got used to the delicacy that Menki made for him and now he can't stand it when he had to go without a meal for so long. Allan finally decided and said, "You two stay here, I will go look for some food." Menki stood up and said, "I will go with you since I'm familiar with the place. If you get lost, we'll be in trouble." "Okay." Allan nodded. The two of them left, leaving Netero alone. On the way, Menki reminded Allan, "Be careful, there will be many monsters and beasts in the desert at night. They hide during the day and come out at the night to hunt." Allan nodded, as he didn't want to be careless. Although they were strong, this place wasn't the usual wilderness, but a restricted area without many unknown factors. It didn't take long for their eyes to get used to the darkness in the desert, and although they can't see clearly, they can still see their surroundings. Allan used to make a circle around him covering 100 meters, just in case. Menki asked curiously, Allan, how far can your reach? Allan pondered and said, well, now, it can probably cover 200 meters. 200 meters is amazing, I can only cover about 50 meters. Allan was about to reply, but suddenly, he felt something moving inside his. The prey is here. Soon, two beasts with green eyes appeared in Allan's sight, approaching both Menki and Allan steadily. When he saw them, Allan asked, wolves? He asked because these beasts were different from the wolves he knew. They were larger and their fur was red. Menki recognized them and said, they are red wolves, 2 to 3 times larger than normal wolves. Their hair is red, their fangs are several times stronger than normal. They can even bite a human in half. Their sense of smell is quite developed as they can smell anything within a kilometer. Under normal circumstances, they act in pair, one male, one female. Allan wasn't afraid, but instead, he was happy. They are so fierce, it means their meat must be delicious, right? It should be a high-grade ingredient. Menki nodded, well, they are indeed quite delicious, but it's limited to their front and hind legs, everything else is average. In the eyes of a gourmet hunter, the red wolves were a level 1 target, which is the same as the red-haired pig. But if it's a pair, then their capture level will raise to 2. A beast that reached level 2, they can't be dealt with by normal people anymore, even with modern weapons. In that case, let me deal with them, I will capture them before they can get close, Allan said. Menki said, you have already worked hard when we dealt with the tornado, let me do this now. Allan nodded, okay, you handle it, but if you can't do it fast, I will intervene. Don't underestimate this lady. Menki snorted and then quickly rushed toward the two wolves. Suddenly, 2 short swords appeared in her hands. The left one was white, and the right one was black. Menki was a conjuring-type nen user, and those 2 swords were manifested through her nen. When the wolves saw Menki rushing toward them, they immediately roared and rushed toward her. Menki didn't dodge them, instead, she suddenly picked up her pace and, in a flash, she passed the 2 wolves. It was too fast and only a cold flash was seen in the dark desert. Turning around, Menki looked at the 2 wolves that were only on the ground dead already. Such a powerful technique, she killed the 2 of them in a split second. Not far away, Allan admired the technique and its users. After hunting down the wolves, Allan and Menki returned to their resting place with the food. They started a fire and Menki proceeded to cook the meat. Menki's short swords were both fighting weapons and kitchen utensils. After getting the meat ready, they put it on the fire to grill it. After spending the night in the desert smoothly, Allan, Menki, and Netero set out the next morning. Their purpose was to fight the passage to the outside world, which can also be called an exit. As for the exit's location, only Menki knew. On the way, they encountered many beasts and dangers, but they were easily resolved one by one without any accidents. After walking through the desert for 3 days, they reached an oasis. It was full of trees and shrubs almost like a forest. Both Netero and Allan held their breath from the breathtaking sight. Menki said, I saw Komatsu in the forest of this oasis, and the exit is inside it. Okay, let's go in, Allan said. Afterward, the 3 proceeded into the forest. They walked in the woods and bushes and gradually went deep into the jungle. After an hour, they reached the depth of the forest. Menki, who was walking in front of them, stopped and said, here, this is it. Looking in the direction Menki was pointing at, they saw a well. Both Allan and Netero wondered why a well would appear here. Allan and Netero looked at each other and walked over. This is a dry well? Seeing the well dry as if it was abandoned for a long time and the vines around it, Allan threw a stone to see how deep the well was. But after waiting for a few minutes, he still didn't hear the sound of the stone reaching the bottom of the well. The stone seemed to disappear without making a sound. Both Netero and Allan frowned at how deep this well seemed. It's like a bottomless hole, Netero said. Allan looked at Menki and asked, Menki, what's going on with this well? You should know its secret, right? Menki nodded. In fact, this well is the passage to the outside world, which is like a gate to a different dimension. As long as you enter it, you will go to another world. Hearing this, Allan and Netero were both surprised. Menki said, I met Komatsu here at the start, and when he left, he also left through the well. Did Komatsu tell you where this well leads? Allan asked. Yes, Komatsu said this well is connected to his world, a place called Earth. Earth? Earth? Hearing Menki mention Earth, Allan's face changed and even his voice trembled. What happened to you? Menki and Netero noticed Allan's expression and asked. Allan didn't speak, but he was thinking about what Menki just said. As a transmigrator, he came from a place called Earth. If it was true that at the end of the well is really Earth, then he can go back home. However, Allan wasn't sure. Because Earth is just a name, other worlds can also be called Earth. By the way, Menki, did Komatsu leave you anything to prove he was from Earth? Allan asked suddenly. He always felt that the name Komatsu was familiar but he couldn't figure out where he heard it. But he was sure that Komatsu was a character from an anime he watched. So, as long as he knew who Komatsu is, he can determine which world it really was. Menki thought for a bit and said, I remember that when Komatsu left, he gave me a note and said that if I wanted to find him, I can open it and read it. Then Menki took out the note and read it to Allan. The note said that he is the head chef of a 10-star hotel called Hotel Gourmet. Hearing this, Allan finally knew who Komatsu was. That's right, the Komatsu that Menki met was Komatsu from Toriko. In other words, the world at the end of this well is Toriko's world, which is also called Earth. But it is hundreds of times larger than my Earth. If it's really Toriko's world on the other end of the well, then it's really great. Allan was excited and couldn't help looking forward to this. Although he didn't know how good the food in Toriko's world is, he thought that it should be really good as the world was full of rare ingredients. In that world, there are trees that could grow king crabs all year round. There are also super beasts that are more precious than gems. For example, the emerald dragon from the Drunken Frenzy Island releases top-class emerald wine. There is also the regal mammoth, which has meat so great that even 100 grams of it cost 5 million. The world of Toriko is very large, not inferior to the hunter's world, and it has two regions. The first is the human world, and the second is the continent that has yet to be conquered by humans. For a hunter, being able to venture into such a world is a great thing. Thinking about this, Allan already decided to go to Toriko's world. He looked at Netero and Menki and said, let's go and see. Have you really decided? Menki asked. Allan nodded firmly and looked at Netero. Is Chairman going? Well, this old man has been here with you from the start. There is no reason to quit now, so I will accompany you to have a look now, Netero agreed. As for Menki, she decided to go from the start. Then let's cross over, transmigrate, Allan said enthusiastically. Cross over? Menki didn't understand the meaning behind that word. Allan explained, it means to travel from one world to another. If there is another world at the end of the well, then we are crossing over there. After that, Allan was the first to jump into the well as his figure disappeared in an instant. Seeing this, Netero said, let's see if this well really has the ability to send people into other worlds. After that, Netero jumped as well and disappeared from view. Menki jumped last. This well was indeed connected to another world. In the barren archipelago north of the continent, 3 uninvited guests appeared near one of the islands. These 3 were Netero, Menki, and Allan. After jumping into the dry well, they entered a dimensional exit that led them to another world. Have we crossed successfully? Is this Earth? Menki asked. I think we did cross over, and this should be the world where Komatsu came from, Allan said uncertainly. He wasn't sure whether they were in another world or not because they were still in the water. They were a few kilometers away from the barren archipelago. The islands are surrounded by rocks as if it was a defense mechanism against invaders, Netero said as he looked around and frowned. Moreover, as a warrior who practiced Nen for more than half his long life, he was sensitive to oris and felt some dangerous sores on the islands. At this time, Menki said, "There seems to be something in this area, we shouldn't stay for long." Allan said, "In that case, let's swim to that island. Can you both manage?" "Don't underestimate me, I'm still confident about my power even in the water," Menki said. Netero laughed, "Although I'm an old man, I can still swim more than 10 kilometers easily." "Okay, let's see who can reach there first. The last one to reach there will be responsible for our food, okay?" Allan said excitedly. Both Netero and Menki didn't have a problem with this. So all of them started swimming toward the closest island in the barren archipelago. They were powerful Nen users, and 10 kilometers wasn't a problem for any of them. While they were swimming, a speedboat suddenly appeared not far away. The words Bishikumaru are written on the side of the boat, which translates as the gastrogig. A man wearing white and a yellow hat on his head with a scarred face noticed 3 people swimming not far away. Who are those 3 guys, swimming in the dangerous area beside the barren archipelago? However, he soon found that his guess was wrong. They aren't swimming, they are trying to get into the islands? Who are they? The man couldn't help being curious about them, so he directly drove his boat toward them. Allan, Menki, and Netero, who were swimming toward the island, noticed the speedboat the gastrogig, but they didn't stop and continued swimming towards the island at full speed. Because they had a game going, they can't stop. This is the sense of competition that hunters should have, and they can't give up halfway. Those weird people are ignoring me. The scarred-faced man who was driving the gastrogig obviously didn't expect that he would be ignored. He couldn't help feeling a little unhappy because he planned to take the 3 of them into the boat, but at the same time, he was even more curious about their identities. Speaking of which, to be able to swim to the island at that speed, their strength and endurance was above first-class level among humans. Among the people I know, only Toriko can compare to them. Thinking of this, the scar-faced man immediately took out his mobile phone and made a call. "Hey, Toriko, I found 3 interesting people who are swimming toward an island in the barren archipelago right now, would you like to come and see them?" On the other end of the phone came a rough man's voice. "Barren archipelago? That's the territory of the Galaligator. If they are ordinary people, then they are looking for death to go there. Are those 3 people like me, gourmet hunters?" The scar-faced man replied, "I don't know their identities, but they are definitely not ordinary people. I can feel something strong from all 3 of them, so what will you do?" "Feels strong? Okay, I'll go there when I have time. I'm not near there now. Can you help me keep an eye on them for now, Tom?" The scarred-faced man who was called Tom by Toriko said, "Don't worry, I will keep an eye on them before you come, Toriko. I am personally interested in the identities of the 3 of them." After finishing the call with Toriko, Tom glanced into the distance and found that Allan, Menki, and Netero had swum to the reef outside the islands in a short period of time. After crossing that reef, they will be on the island. "Those 3 guys are so fast, who are they?" Tom was curious, and he decided to follow. There are too many reefs on the outskirts of the barren archipelago. No matter whether the tide is rising or falling, there is only one route to pass through the reefs, and only those who are very familiar with the route can drive boats across the reefs smoothly. Tom has entered the archipelago several times. He can tell the location and number of the rocks outside, and also know the route to enter there very well. He stepped on the accelerator, turned the speedboat to the maximum speed, and drove the gastrogig towards the island at a high speed, while successfully passing the dangerous rocky reef. The entrance is flanked by mangrove trees. On the other hand, because Allan and the others swam there, the route they took was different from Tom's, but they also landed on the island smoothly. The first to arrive on the island was Netero, followed by Allan, and finally Menki. But the difference between the 3 was only a few seconds. Allan looked at Netero and said in admiration, Chairman, even at your age, you're still really strong. If Allan used the law of space, he could easily reach this island, but he did not want that. Instead, he chose to be fair and swim with Netero and Menki. Facts have proved that Netero, while old, is still strong, and worthy of his title as the strongest Nen user in the world. Even though he is over 100 years old, his body still maintains the vitality of a youngster. Menki pouted and said, I lost, I will prepare the food today. Allan said, this island should have good ingredients, but now we should see if there are people on this island, and figure out where we are now. Menki said, when we swam over just now, wasn't there a man driving a speedboat close to us? If we find that guy, we should be able to know what we want to know from him, including the information about this island. Just as they were talking, a scar-faced man in white, and with a yellow hat walked out of the woods next to them. Allan and the others could see at a glance that this man was the one who approached them in the speedboat just now. Tom was the first to speak. The three of you are very strong. You actually swam here. Allan said, if we had transportation, we would not choose to swim to the island. That would be too labor-intensive. Tom said, in other words, you are forced to do so? That's right. Allan didn't deny it. Tom said, just now, I was planning to use my gastro gig to take you for a ride, but you ignored me. Because the three of us were racing to see who can reach the island first and no one wanted to lose. Is that so? After Tom understood the reason why Allan and the others ignored him just now, he nodded, thinking that he had misunderstood them. By the way, after chatting for so long, I still don't know what your names are, Tom asked. Aren't you supposed to introduce yourself before asking someone's name, said Allan. My name is Tom, and I'm a food ingredient seller. Seeing Tom readily introducing himself, the other three also gave their names. After learning the names of the three of them, Tom said curiously, I think the three of you are not ordinary people. Where are you from? What are you doing on this island? Allan asked back, Mr. Tom, before answering your question, can you tell us where this place is? No way, you don't know where we are now? Tom was a little surprised. Allan said, to be honest, we came from another place, so we don't know the situation here. For some reason, we appeared here, so I want to know where this place is, and I hope you can tell us. Hearing this, Tom pondered for a while and said, although I don't quite understand what you mean, it sounds like you are from a faraway place and are unfamiliar with everything here. Well, I can tell you what this place is. But, accordingly, after I tell you where this place is, you must also tell me who you are. Allan, Netero, and Menki looked at each other, then nodded. Okay, Mr. Tom, as long as you tell me where we are and promise to be our guides, we can tell you who we are and where we come from, Allan said. Good, it's a deal, Tom said cheerfully. He was really curious about their origins. Afterward, Tom told them that this was the Barren Archipelago, and they are on the southernmost island in the archipelago. Through Tom's answer, Allan finally determined that this is indeed Toriko's world. In other words, they really managed to cross into the world of Toriko. And Allan then told Tom that they were professional hunters, from the Hunter Association, who had crossed into this world through a magical dry well. After realizing this, Tom thought it was inconceivable and said, I didn't expect you to come from another world. In a way, you are indeed guests from afar. As they were talking, a roar sounded from the jungle on the island. Everyone became vigilant instantly as Allan said, it's nearby. Menki added, judging from the roar, it should be a large beast, at least 3 meters tall. A tiger-type beast most likely. Tom on the side heard Menki's analysis and said in admiration, you can tell the size and type of the creature from the roar alone? That's so cool. After all, I'm a gourmet hunter, and I've dealt with many beasts previously. A gourmet hunter? So like Toriko, Tom said. Who is Toriko? Menki asked curiously. A very powerful gourmet hunter, Tom responded. Menki said, since we are colleagues, if there's a chance, I'd like to meet him. Tom replied, there will be a chance. Allan on the side heard Tom mentioning Toriko, and remembered that he was one of the 4 heavenly kings. At this moment, Netero said, "It's here." Allan and the others jumped back directly as a huge beast appeared not far away from them. It was at least 5 meters tall. "That's a huge-ass tiger," Allan said. Mankey said, "From the fangs on both sides of its mouth, it seems to be a saber-toothed tiger, but much bigger than normal." Tom frowned as he knew this beast. "This is a baron tiger, it's a level 3 capture creature, you have to be careful. It's one of the most aggressive beasts here." Allan, Netero, and Mankey were very calm. If it was an ordinary person, then indeed, the baron tiger would be ferocious, but in front of the 3 of them, it didn't pose a threat. Allan smiled and said, "It seems today's dinner is here." Then he looked at Tom and asked, "Mr. Tom, is the tiger's meat good?" "Meat?" Tom was puzzled. "I mean, is the meat of the tiger delicious? Is it a high-end ingredient?" Allan asked. Tom was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, "I haven't eaten it before, but it should be quite good. Many people came here in the past to eat the meat of this tiger and only a few succeeded." Allan's eyes lit up and smiled. "Hey, that's fine. It seems like the meat of this baron tiger is quite the ingredient. It seems like today is your lucky day." "Lucky day?" Tom was a little puzzled before he asked, "What are you going to do?" "Of course, we will kill it and eat it," Allan said. Tom never thought that Allan wanted to eat the tiger's meat, and he couldn't help worrying. "This tiger is quite strong, so you better be careful." Allan said, "Don't worry, we only see it as a big cat actually." "Cat?" Tom was speechless. He didn't expect the 3 of them to actually think of the baron tiger, the level 3 capture creature, as a big cat. They seemed a little arrogant. Allan turned to Mankey and said, "Mankey, you handle the tiger, you lost to me and the president in the race and you need to make us dinner." "No problem." Mankey nodded. At this moment, the baron tiger raised its claws and was ready to pounce at them. Allan and Netero were unafraid. On the other hand, Tom stepped back timidly. But he still pretended to be calm. At this moment, Mankey jumped up and 2 daggers appeared in her hand. With a white light flash, Mankey appeared behind the tiger, which was already dead. Its head was severed as it collapsed to the ground. She only took it 2 seconds to deal with the baron tiger. Tom sucked in a deep cold breath as he looked at Mankey in surprise. "That's really amazing, to kill the baron tiger so quickly and in a single strike." Mankey said, "Hey, I said that I'm a gourmet hunter. If I can't handle a mere beast, then how would I be a gourmet hunter?" Tom could only smile awkwardly, as he knows now that Mankey was amazing. As night fell, Allan, Mankey, Netero, and Tom sat in front of a fire, enjoying the barbecue of the baron tiger. The tiger was worthy of being a level 3 capture beast because its meat was a delicacy. It's not bad. The meat of the baron tiger is way better than the red-haired pig. Everyone praised the meat as they ate and enjoyed the flavor. The Toriko world was really worthy of having the best food ingredient in all animes. There was no need for a kitchen or even cooking utensils, you just need to roast the beast on fire and you have a delicacy. If they hunt for beasts with higher capture levels, then the meat will certainly be even more delicious. Just thinking about made Allan drool. He decided to stop being lazy and hunt more beasts. "Let's go inside the island tomorrow and see if there is an even more delicious beast," Allan said with his eyes glowing in excitement. Mankey said, "This island is full of resources, so we should be able to find good ingredients." Tom, who was eating the meat, gulped down a mouthful and said, "Thanks to you, I was fortunate enough to taste the baron tiger's meat, which made my trip worthwhile. If you don't mind, I will be your guide tomorrow as I'm familiar with this island." Mankey said, "We appreciate that, thanks." Allan looked at Tom and said, "Mr. Tom, your decision is wise. As long as you are our guide, you will get to eat delicious meat every day." "Then, that's settled. I'm looking forward to the food then. No one will say no to delicious food." Allan and the other 2 crossed over from another world and they were curious about this world, which made both Mankey and Netero agree to explore the island. While they were eating barbecue and talking, many beasts appeared in their surroundings. They were staring at Allan and the others hungrily, or better yet, they were staring at the meat the four of them were eating. "Those beasts aren't afraid of people, it seems," Allan said. "They were attracted to the smell of our food most likely," Menki said. Netero laughed. "Interesting, even beasts can't resist the smell of delicacies. But then again, what kind of beasts are these, and why are they strangely shaped?" Allan asked. "The beasts weren't from the same species it seems. Some looked like boars, some like leopards, and others like monkeys." Tom explained, "This island has a tropical rainforest, and many beasts take that forest as their home. According to a survey, about 200,000 species reside on the island. However, most of them are not as ferocious as the bear and tiger, which is extremely rare." "So, which one is the most ferocious?" Menki asked. "The fiercest one here is a giant crocodile, called Galaligator," Tom said. "Galaligator?" Menki asked as she didn't hear about this kind of beast before. But that should be normal, she wasn't from this world, so finding a beast unfamiliar wasn't because she is lacking as a gourmet hunter. Tom said, "The Galaligator is a giant crocodile, its level of capture is 5, much more dangerous than the bear and tiger." Hearing this, Allan laughed and said, "Is it the most powerful beast on the island? Its meat should be quite the catch, right?" "Well, that's for sure," Tom said. "Okay, then it's decided. Our next target is the Galaligator," Allan said. Hearing Allan's words, Tom was surprised. "The Galaligator is really dangerous. Are you sure you want to hunt it?" "Of course, we're not afraid of it," Allan said. "Okay then." Tom didn't say much, but he already started regretting being their guide tomorrow. After all, the Galaligator is a lot more dangerous than the bear and tiger. The next morning, after everyone ate breakfast, which was a weird snake that Allan took the lead to hunt, while Menki was the one to cook it. "I can't believe that this snake, which didn't look like a snake, or a frog that didn't seem like a frog is so delicious after cooking it," Allan said after taking a bite of the snake frog's leg with a happy expression. "The liver part of this snake frog is quite delicious as well," Menki praised. "I have to say, the food here is really great," Netero praised as he was satisfied with the food here. After eating, they continued deeper into the jungle, searching for the Galaligator. On the way, Tom said, "The Galaligator is a nocturnal animal, so it doesn't come out during the day. It resides in a swamp or wetlands. If you want to eat it, you need to do it during the day, or else, it will become even more dangerous during the night." "Then let's go before it gets dark," Allan said. And with that, Tom led the group toward the habitat of the Galaligator. Along the way, they passed through the dense jungle and dangerous swamps. They encountered no less than 10,000 creatures. They were ferocious creatures such as swamp snakes and some types of crocodiles. After a while, Allan gained an understanding of the creatures on this island. Half of the 200,000 creatures on the barren islands were herbivorous, they weren't aggressive and could only be food for the other half. As for the omnivores, although they were aggressive, they didn't take the initiative to attack humans. Only large carnivorous beasts with only meat in their diet will attack humans. Of course, no matter how fierce the beasts were, in the eyes of Allan, Netero, and Menki, they could only be ingredients. No matter how ferocious the beasts were, they can't pose a threat to the group. The group was attacked a few times by beasts for invading their territory, but they ended up eaten, while Menki recorded all beasts, as it was her job as a gourmet hunter. When they passed through a swamp, a group of bear and tigers suddenly appeared. They were at least 30 to 50 tigers and each was 4 meters tall. Allan and Netero were ready to deal with them, but they soon discovered that these tigers weren't attacking them, instead, they were running away from something. "These tigers look like they're running for their lives," Allan said. Menki said, "You're right, look, they seem afraid and panicked. Another beast is probably hunting them, so they had to escape." "A stronger predator? The bear and tiger is one of the strongest on the island, there are only a handful of creatures here that can hunt them," Tom said. "Could it be a Galaligator hunting them?" Allan guessed. "Yes, very likely, Tom replied. At this moment, the ground shook, and immediately afterward, a huge creature appeared and moved toward Allan and the others. It was a huge crocodile. This crocodile was at least 10 times larger than the normal crocodile. There is no doubt that this is the alligator. Well damn, that crocodile is really huge, isn't it? No wonder bear and tigers were afraid and fled in panic. Just one bite is enough to eat an entire tiger. If we were bitten, we can be stuck between its teeth, Netero said. Hearing this, Mankey rolled her eyes and said, Chairman, are you joking, or are you worrying about nothing? Netero laughed, I'm just kidding. Allan stared at the crocodile in the distance and said, I only care about whether its meat is delicious or not. Look at that guy's size, it's at least 100 years old, you have to be careful, Tom reminded. Mankey said, 100 years? That is to say, this crocodile can live past 100 years? I'm afraid so, Tom said seriously. Allan turned his head to Netero and said, Chairman, did you hear that? This giant crocodile is about the same age as you, what do you think? Netero said, I don't want to kill it, I will let you handle it. Tom heard what Allan said to Netero and exclaimed in surprise, did I hear you correctly? This old man, Netero, is already 100 years old? I'm not just 100 years old, but already past it. Tom was so shocked that he looked at Netero carefully. He couldn't believe that this energetic old man was already over 100 years old. Today, Tom witnessed with his eyes the oldest living human being in his life. At this moment, the alligator was about 10 meters away from them. Let me do it. Mankey stood up and was ready to take action. Allan suddenly heard a familiar voice for the first time in over a year. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Personally kill the alligator. Reward, gourmet stomach. 2. With Mankey and the others' help, kill the alligator. Reward, devil fruit fragments. Facing the long-lost choice system, Allan was pleasantly surprised. Obviously, the reward for killing the alligator alone was better, so Allan directly chose the first option and said to Mankey, who was preparing for battle, Mankey, let me do it this time. Unexpectedly, Mankey said, no, this is my prey, I want to see how fierce this guy is. Hearing this, Allan was a bit troubled. He didn't want to argue with Mankey. The alligator looked ferocious and all, but Mankey can handle it easily. If it wasn't for the reward, Allan would be too lazy to make a move. After all, the alligator can't even arouse his will to fight. But if Mankey insisted on killing the crocodile, he wouldn't be able to receive the reward from the system, and this made Allan dissatisfied. At this time, the alligator rushed at them. Its body was so huge it looked as if a hill was moving toward them. It suddenly turned around and swept its tail at them directly. Netero, Allan, and Tom immediately jumped back. And Mankey didn't want to avoid this attack, but she underestimated the alligator's speed. Seeing the tail moving toward her, Mankey could only use her own strength to defend against it, but the alligator's power was great. Mankey used her net to enhance her power, but she was still pushed back. Although she wasn't injured, Mankey had to pay attention now. The giant crocodile swept its tail again, and this time, Mankey just jumped up, avoiding the attack. Before the crocodile could turn back, Mankey grabbed its tail and slammed it to the ground. She then picked it up and started turning it around and finally threw it away. The alligator was actually thrown far away just like that, which made Tom surprised. That's amazing. She actually threw the giant, that weighed over 10 tons, like it's nothing. Allan and Netero weren't that surprised. After all, Mankey was a Nen user. With Nen, she can increase her power greatly. After throwing the alligator, Mankey took advantage of the situation and went after it with her daggers. She tried to decapitate the crocodile, but to her surprise, the scales on its body were very hard. The daggers slashed down but failed to take off its head. Seeing that Mankey could kill the crocodile in one go, Netero said, Mankey, let Allan do it. I believe he can take that big guy in one move. Mankey didn't insist on fighting and stepped back and said to Allan, go ahead, Well, here I go. Allan didn't take his time, he just raised his head and used the power of space to cut the huge body of the crocodile from its head. It didn't even take a few seconds and it's done. That's amazing. Tom was shocked. Mankey was also amazed and said, "This is using air to cut." The so-called space cut was just manipulating the space and turning the air into sharp blades that can cut the target. Of course, Allan can literally cut space, but that was too much to deal with the situation at hand. After killing the crocodile, a notification appeared, "Ding! You successfully killed the alligator on your own and received the gourmet's stomach as a reward." As soon as Allan acquired this new ability, he knew what it does. It allowed Allan to convert all the delicious food he eats into energy. The higher the grade of the food, the better the energy he receives. If this is converted into numbers, then Allan would get 0.01 energy from a bowl of rice and 0.1 energy from a chicken. If he eats 100 kilograms of meat, then he will get 10 points of energy. This energy refills his stamina generally and can also enhance the various aspects of his body, like strength and agility, and also, different ingredients had different effects. Mankey proceeded to prepare the barbecue. As Allan ate the alligator's meat, he felt new energy pouring into his body. This was his new ability to convert food into energy. After eating, a notification appeared in front of Allan. "Ding! The alligator's meat was great and you enjoyed it greatly. A total of 50 points of energy are transformed from the food." Allan secretly rejoiced, "Awesome, with the gourmet's stomach, I can eat delicious food and get stronger at the same time." Allan decided there and then to look for delicious food to make his body stronger. Time flew by and 2 years passed since Allan went to Toriko's world. After 2 years, Allan, Mankey, and Netero returned to Hunter World. Everybody gained a lot from those 2 years, especially Netero who regained his youth and strength. As for Allan, his gourmet's stomach absorbed so much food and produced energy, making his stamina and strength improve by leaps and bounds. Moreover, Allan created a new fighting style. After returning to the Hunter World, Allan stayed on Whale Island for half a year. Ding! The host has stayed in the Hunter World for more than 1,000 days and completed the survival task. Congratulations to the host for getting a new opportunity to travel to another world. Hearing this, Allan realized that he stayed here for almost 3 years. Now, he didn't have any reason to stay here anymore. Well, let's go to another world then. After this, Allan went to Mito and called Gon, Killua, Netero, and Mankey to say goodbye while also telling them that he was from another world. When they learned that Allan was from another world, they believed him directly. After learning that he was leaving this world, they all expressed their blessings and urged him to visit them if there was a chance. Just like that, Allan decided to go to another world. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Go to Naruto World next and start your adventure. Reward: Chakra Cells of the Uzumaki. 2. Go to One Piece World next and start your adventure. Reward: the 6 Techniques of the Marine. 3. Go to Bleach World next and start your adventure. Reward: Zanpakuto, Ryujinjaka, 1. After thinking about his choices, Allan made his decision. I chose to go to Naruto World. 1. After he said this, the space around him started warping and in the next instant, Allan disappeared. Naruto World, a certain forest. Allan appeared directly in this strange place. Ding! You have successfully traveled to Naruto World and received the Uzumaki clan's chakra cells. Hearing this, Allan looked around and found himself in a forest. Although he wasn't sure where this forest is, he was sure that he is in Naruto's world after the notification. As for the reward, Allan was very satisfied. After all, when you came to Naruto's world, how can you go without chakra? However, unfortunately, he didn't know how to gather chakra. Sadly, Allan just crossed over and he didn't know how to refine chakra, which felt like you have a treasure chest but you didn't have a key to open it. There are 2 ways to unlock chakra. The first is using your talent to slowly get a feel of chakra, and with Allan's own experience with Nen, he can master it easily. The second way is to find a ninja, learn the method from him, which is easier and faster. However, Allan wasn't in a hurry to do that just yet. After all, the most important thing now is to know where he was and what time he traveled to. Only after finding those things can he start refining chakra and learning about it. Traveling alone in the forest, Allan's eyes were on full alert. The world of Naruto was dangerous and ninjas walk around everywhere. If currently, the world was in the period of the Great Ninja Wars, any of them, he would be involved and it will be troublesome. Since he didn't want to get attacked suddenly, Allan spread his in a radius of 50 meters. If anyone approached him within a 50 meters radius, he would detect them easily. While heading east of the forest, he felt an abnormal vibration in the ground. He quickly put his hand down to determine from which direction the vibration came. The only possibility for this kind of tremor here is a ninja battle. He just crossed over and needs to know where and what timeline he was currently in. He directly teleported toward the battle, since he can very well ask whoever is there for information. Allan arrived at the top of a tree and looked down. The ground was dusty as if there was a battle a second ago. There should have been a cave there, but the cave seemed to have collapsed due to some kind of explosion. Not far away from the collapsed cave, a man in a gray vest appeared. The man stared at the cave and sneered, "You three brats wanted to bury me, although you prevented me from completing my mission. I get to kill you, which is worth it." After speaking, the man turned around from the cave and sat down to rest. He took a water bottle and started drinking. He seemed to come out of a battle and he wasn't in a good state. Allan stared at the man's forehead protector, and judging from the symbol on it, this ninja was part of the rock village. The three brats that the ninja spoke of should be Kakashi, Obito, and Rin, right? Allan's expression changed slightly. Then it should be the third ninja great war currently, and this should be the Kanabi Bridges battle. In this battle, the rock village led an army to attack the fire country, and Namikaze Minato led Hitake Kakashi, Uchiha Obito, and Nohara Rin to support the defense. The team was divided into two. Minato went as support in the front line, and the rest went to sneak in and blow up the Kanabi Bridge to cut the rock's line of supply. After sneaking behind the enemy line, Kakashi and the rest were attacked by the rock ninjas. After a fierce fight, Rin was kidnapped by the rocks and Kakashi lost an eye and Obito obtained his Sharingan. After that, both boys went to rescue Rin and they fought inside a cave against the rock ninjas. Although they successfully rescued Rin, one of the rocks managed to escape out of the cave using the double suicide decapitation technique and blew the cave up, causing a cave-in. As Kakashi and the others were escaping, a huge rock fell down, and with Kakashi's new blind spot due to his eye loss, he couldn't dodge in time, which made Obito sacrifice himself to get Kakashi out of the way, and while Obito got half his body crashed under the rock. The next part should be where Kakashi gets his Sharingan from Obito and then kills the rock ninja. Allan looked at the rock ninja before narrowing his eyes. He still didn't know what he should do honestly. He may have a good relationship with Konoha if he interferes. He also wants to avoid getting hunted by the rock ninjas in the future, since that would be troublesome. Who is there? Just when Allan was thinking about his next move, the rock Jonin noticed Allan standing on the tree and he became vigilant. Allan didn't hide himself at all. Since he was discovered, he simply jumped down before disappearing and arriving beside the other party. Fast. Seeing Allan cross 10 meters in an instant, the Jonin took a defensive stance. "Let me ask you something, are the three brats you're talking about Konoha shinobi?" Allan asked. Although he already guessed this, Allan still wanted to make sure of this. However, the Jonin didn't answer Allan's question. Instead he asked, "Who are you?" The reason for asking this is simple. He didn't see Allan wearing a forehead protector, and he couldn't guess to which side he belonged. Another point was Allan's speed, which shouldn't be something a Jonin or a Chunin have. Allan smiled, "Don't be nervous, I'm not a ninja from Konoha, just a passerby." Passerby? Obviously, the Jonin didn't believe him. The atmosphere got intense and any move would start a battle. At this time, the system gave Allan a choice. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Participate in the Kanbai Bridge plot and kill the rock ninja. Reward, rock clone jutsu. 2. It doesn't matter, just stay away from the original plot. Reward, suffering. Allan directly chose the first option. The first reason was the reward of the second choice, and the second reason was, by doing this, he can interact with the main characters of the world, which should trigger more choices. As long as it's profitable, there is no harm in participating in the ninja war, right? Since he wasn't someone from this world, anything he does will interfere with the plot anyways, so he should just do whatever his heart tells him and be happy. At this time, the rock Jonin felt that Allan was about to make a move, and decided to make the first attack. As a Jonin, he wasn't weak. With his experience and power, he put the just promoted Kakashi in a hard life and death situation and almost took Obito's life. He was confident in his close combat and speed. He took 2 kunais from his waist and waved them at Allan. However, his attack failed as Allan disappeared. The Jonin's expression changed slightly as he thought, body flicker? The body flicker was a move all strong ninja mastered. As a Jonin from the rock village, he also can use this move. But Allan's speed has exceeded everything he knew about that jutsu. Allan seemed to have disappeared, he even hid his aura. Where the hell is he? The Jonin's eyes were full of vigilance as he looked around. I'm behind you. The Jonin directly swung his arms without hesitation as soon as he heard the voice. But unfortunately, there was no one there. Damn. Is it the body flicker again? Allan's speed was too much for him, he couldn't see his shadow, let alone touch him. It's not the body flicker technique, it's teleportation. Allan's voice once again sounded beside his ears, but this time, it was accompanied with a strong killing intent. The Jonin was startled. Just as he was about to wave his blade, a transparent line passed over his neck and in the next second, his head fell down. Ding. Congratulations on killing the rock Jonin and participating in the Kanbai Bridge plot. Your reward is rock clone, advanced. In an instant, the information about the ninjutsu entered Allan's mind like a warm wave and he directly mastered it. However, since Allan has yet to learn how to refine chakra, he couldn't use any ninjutsu yet. After dealing with the rock ninja and receiving the reward, Allan revealed a satisfied smile. The ninja techniques used in Naruto can be compared to the ninjutsu in the hunter world. Allan smiled and moved toward the collapsed cave. Kakashi and the others should be here. At this moment, the blockade on the cave exploded and a figure rushed out. Silver hair, a black mask, a short sword, and a blood-stained Sharingan from Uchiha Obito. The Sharingan confirmed that this was Kakashi Hatake. Comment. Although he is still young, he was easily recognizable. Kakashi saw Allan standing outside and immediately showed hostility. He thought Allan was an enemy ninja and attacked. Wait right there, I'm not your enemy. Allan avoided Kakashi's attack as he explained. Kakashi didn't listen and continued attacking Allan like crazy. With the Sharingan, Kakashi's visual reflexes and reaction time were greatly enhanced, but he still couldn't follow Allan's movement. Allan got tired of this and directly sent Kakashi flying with a palm strike. Kakashi spat a mouthful of blood and glared at Allan with killing intent. Allan didn't give Kakashi any chance to attack as he directly appeared beside him in an explosion of speed and snatched his short sword before grabbing him by the neck. Calm down, I'm not your enemy. Hearing Allan's words, Kakashi finally calmed down a little after struggling for a few seconds. Seeing that he was no longer making a fuss, Allan let him go. Kakashi instantly distanced himself and stared at Allan. Allan raised his finger and pointed far away. Kakashi looked in that direction and noticed a rock ninja dead on the ground. You killed him? Kakashi's expression changed as he saw the enemy ninja dead on the ground. Allan didn't deny it and said, yes, I killed him. Kakashi asked with some doubt, are you the reinforcement from Konoha? Allan shook his head, I'm not a ninja, I'm just a passerby who happened to pass by here. Passerby? Obviously, Kakashi didn't believe him, but he had no way to confirm Allan's identity. At this time, a girl's voice rushed from the cave. "Kakashi, what's wrong?" This was Rin Nohara without a doubt. Kakashi stepped toward the cave and replied, "That rock ninja was killed, I will go down and save Obito." Obito was trapped inside the cave, half of his body was covered by a large rock, and his left eye was tightly closed as blood gushed out of it. "Kakashi, use that Sharingan wisely, make your name known throughout the world," Obito said weakly. Kakashi replied gloomily, "Obito, hold on, I will save you." Obito said weakly but stubbornly, "Don't worry about me, Kakashi. I know my current situation, I'm already dead, you take Rin and quickly leave. This is an enemy's territory. If you don't leave soon, none of us will be able to leave here." How could Kakashi leave Obito just like that? But while he was hesitating, the enemy's reinforcement arrived. Several rock ninjas surrounded the cave, and even Allan was considered an enemy. "Oh, this is getting troublesome." Allan glanced at the rock ninjas and thought, "Do I help Kakashi and the others?" At this time, the system once again gave him a choice. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Kill all rock ninjas here. Reward, mysterious ninjutsu chest X1. 2. Escaping is the best strategy, leave Kakashi and the others to fend for themselves. Reward, Fuma Shuriken X1. After just a second, Allan decisively picked the first option. At the moment Allan made his choice, a dozen or so ninjas from the rock village attacked. Earth Release, Earth Spear. Dozen of Earth Spears sprung forth from the ground with great force. The rock ninjas planned on burying everyone here. More than a dozen rock ninjas used the rock spear technique on Allan and the others, which made the already almost collapsed cave to shake. Seeing that the crisis was imminent, Allan made a decisive move and instantly created a barrier and blocked all the spears that rushed toward everyone. This was a space ability developed by Allan using the space law to create a barrier. Simply put, it creates a barrier that could block attacks, which currently did its job and protected Kakashi and the others. Kakashi was surprised at Allan's power and the ease he blocked the attack. Even a dozen of ninjas attacking together couldn't penetrate his barrier, which made them all look in disbelief at the amazing sight. Without waiting for the ninjas to attack again, Allan disappeared using his space power and, in a few seconds, he killed all the rock ninjas. The system directly delivered Allan's reward. Thing. You have successfully killed all rock ninjas, you received a mysterious ninjutsu chest X1. Seeing that Allan killed all the rock ninjas, Kakashi said, "You're strong." "I'm alright." Allan shrugged with indifference. In fact, those rock ninjas were nothing to Allan. Kakashi said seriously, "No matter what, I have to thank you for this time. Without you, we would be in danger." Allan waved his hand and said, "Okay, let's go see your friend." Kakashi nodded and then returned to the cave. Allan followed after him and saw Nohara Rin, who was with Obito with half his body under a boulder. Obito looked really pale. Kakashi raised his right hand and an electric current emerged as he tried to break the boulder. "Rin, step back, I will try to break this rock." "Is that okay?" Rin's expression was filled with concern. "There is no other way. If we want to bring Obito to Konoha to receive treatment, we have to do this," Kakashi said anxiously. Obito was already struggling with his breaths. However, when Kakashi is about to use his Raikiri on the boulder, Allan stopped him and said, "Let me do this. Using Raikiri can cause damage to your companions. I have a way to remove the rock from the top of your friend without hurting him." Hearing this, Kakashi was doubtful, but then remembered that Allan easily dealt with the rock ninjas. He could only trust Allan. "Okay, you do it." Allan nodded. He stepped forward and raised his hand, and pressed his palms against the huge rock on top of Obito. He put his index and middle finger together and placed them on the side of his forehead. In the next instant, Allan and the huge rock disappeared in an instant. Allan appeared in the woods a kilometer away. Instant transmission. After that, Allan used the law of space once again and teleported back. Seeing Allan suddenly reappearing, Kakashi and Rin, along with Obito, looked in disbelief at Allan. Kakashi curiously asked, "Why did you suddenly disappear with the rock? How did you reappear here?" Allan shrugged, "I just teleported with the rock, then teleported back." Hearing this, Kakashi quickly understood, "So, you have an ability like Minato-sensei's Flying Thunder God." Allan said, "Did you mean Minato Namikaze? You know him?" Kakashi was a little surprised. Allan smiled lightly, "Who doesn't know the Konoha Yellow Flash?" "That's true." Kakashi nodded. Allan said, "Well then, what are you going to do now? Although I have helped you move the rock away, your friend's injury is too severe and he won't be able to make it far in that state." Kakashi said seriously, "Since you can teleport, can you take Obito to Konoha?" Allan shook his head and said, "No, I have a limit to the distance which I can teleport, and this place is far away from here, and also, I didn't visit Konoha before and I can't be there without visiting at least once." "Then what should I do?" Kakashi looked worried. Allan replied, "Your friend is seriously injured and moving him will aggravate his condition. The best way is to invite a professional here." Kakashi nodded and said to Rin, "Rin, there should be a medical unit on the front line. I will go there and get them to save Obito, you stay here with him." Rin said, "I know Kakashi, go ahead and come back quickly, be careful out there." "Yeah." Then Kakashi turned and looked at Allan and said, "Although I don't know your name yet, can I trouble you to protect my friends?" Thing. Make a choice. 1. Promise Kakashi to take care of Obito and Rin until he gets back. Reward, Lightning Chakra Nature. 2. Reject Kakashi and teleport away. Reward, 1 explosive tag. Allan picked the first choice and nodded to Kakashi, "Go, I will stay here. As long as I'm here, I can guarantee that no one will be able to hurt them. But you have to come back quickly or your friend won't survive." "Well, thank you, I will come back as fast as I can." After saying this, Kakashi left the cave with a body flicker and went toward the front lines. When Kakashi went to the front line looking for a medic ninja, Allan squatted down outside the cave to protect Obito and Rin. This place was under the rock ninjas, and since the Kanabai Bridge was less than a kilometer away, Allan decisively opened the mysterious ninjutsu chest. Immediately, the system gave him a notification. Thing. You've opened a mysterious ninjutsu chest, and you have obtained Chakra Refinement. Basic Academy 3. Multiple Shuriken. Allan was ecstatic since he obtained the Chakra Refinement finally. But he didn't expect that he would also get the Academy 3. Only by refining chakra can Allan use various ninjutsu. Allan has the Uzumaki chakra cells. As long as he starts extracting chakra, his reserve would be immense. Because he had a good foundation, which is nen techniques, Allan quickly started the chakra refinement successfully. After chakra refining for a while, Allan tried to use ninjutsu, which he didn't have a lot of. Allan tried using the mud clone, and with one attempt, he successfully used it. This meant that Allan had an earth chakra nature, along with the lightning chakra nature he obtained from the system. Soon, Kakashi came back, and along with him, came a woman and a man, wearing green vests. The man had yellow hair and blue eyes, which was undoubtedly Minato Namikaze. As for the female ninja, she was very beautiful, a blonde with a crystal necklace around her neck. She was Tsunade Senju, one of the Sanin. After learning about Obito from Kakashi, Minato brought the best to treat his student. Tsunade arriving here means that Obito would very likely live through. As the best medical ninja in the world, she should be able to help Obito. At this time, Minato and Tsunade noticed Allan protecting the cave, which made Minato step forward. "Hello, I'm Minato Namikaze. I have heard from Kakashi that you saved them, and we're here to protect them. Thank you very much." Allan waved his hand and said, "It's a trivial matter, you're welcome. But you should quickly look at your student." Minato nodded and said to Tsunade, "Tsunade-sama, please help Obito." As they walked into the cave, they saw Obito on the ground with Rin holding his hand. Obito looked pale and weak, his left eye was tightly closed since he gave it to Kakashi. Minato said with remorse, "I'm sorry, Obito, I was late." Seeing Obito like this made Minato filled with guilt. As their sensei, he didn't protect his students. Obito replied weakly, "It's not your fault, Minato-sensei." Tsunade glanced at Obito and said in a strict tone, "Uchiha Obito's right half is completely crushed, his injuries are too serious. It's a miracle that he is alive. I will need to start the treatment, and it will at least need a day. In the meantime, please take care of our surroundings and don't disturb me." "I understand, please don't worry, Tsunade-sama," Minato reassured. Afterward, everyone left the cave except for Tsunade and her patient. "Sensei, will Obito be alright?" Rin asked anxiously. Minato said, "Tsunade-sama is Konoha's, no, it's the world's best medical ninja, so Obito should be fine." Kakashi said, "If it wasn't for me, Obito wouldn't have been hit by that rock, it's all my fault." Minato comforted him, "Don't worry, Kakashi. It's not your fault, there are many unexpected things that happen in battle. Obito won't blame you." Kakashi replied, "Obito has already awakened his Sharingan, when he is healed, I will return the Sharingan back to him." Allan listened to the conversation in deep thought. His actions affected the entire story. Obito won't turn into a villain which will bring unexpected changes to the world. Obito was rescued by Madara Uchiha, who made him witness Kakashi shoving a Reikiri into Rin's stomach, which brought him to the dark side. Now with Tsunade healing him and Minato guarding the place, it's impossible for Madara or Zetsu to get to him. And if Obito can't be taken, Madara would probably find another person to groom. All in all, because of Allan's intervention, Kakashi, Rin, and Obito's fates were changed drastically. This change in fate will affect many others, like Minato Namikaze and Madara Uchiha. This is the largest butterfly effect he caused ever. For now, he can't do anything but observe the changes he made. After a while, dozens of figures appeared, surrounding Allan, Minato, Kakashi, and Rin who were protecting the cave. Minato looked at the rock ninjas calmly, before he said, "There are a lot of them. No matter how many there are, I must protect Obito." Kakashi held a kunai and stared at the enemy. "I will protect him as well." Rin also took a kunai and said vigilantly. As for Allan, he didn't join them, instead, he stood not far away with his arms folded and a pondering look on his face. Since Minato was there, Allan didn't need to make a move himself. In fact, he wanted to see Minato's flying thunder god and see how it works. The rock ninjas didn't attack directly. The leader in charge of them was a burly man who recognized Minato at a glance and said, "I didn't expect the yellow flash to appear here. That's really surprising. Weren't you fighting in the front lines?" Minato squatted down and whispered to Kakashi and Rin, "Kakashi, Rin, throw the Hiraishin kunai at them, I will deal with the rest. We can't let them disturb Tsunade-sama's treatment." "Got it. No problem," Kakashi and Rin replied. Following that, Minato turned around and looked at Allan again, but he didn't say anything. Allan looked at Minato and nodded at him, saying that he didn't need to worry about him. Minato understood the hidden meaning and focused on the rock ninjas. Giving Rin and Kakashi the order, both threw the kunai at the rock ninjas. Each kunai held the flying thunder god seal on the handle. According to what Allan knew about that technique, it's an instant movement technique that needs markers for the user to teleport to. An S-class space-time ninjutsu. The technique doesn't need hand seals. At this moment, Minato started teleporting toward the marked kunai that Kakashi and Rin threw. He was too fast that only a yellow flash remained with each teleport. He killed each enemy without hesitation or mercy. He didn't want to risk Obito's treatment being interrupted, therefore, they are going to be annihilated. Minato was colder than normal, and that was because he was facing rock ninjas, who almost killed his student, and now that student was fighting for his life, and no one knew if he can make it. He blamed himself for not protecting Obito but also blamed the rock ninjas for doing that to his student, so he was like a killing machine on the battlefield. No one could stop him. Although Minato could deal with everyone without a problem, the enemy was scattered through the wood, and Minato had no way to teleport and hunt them. Therefore, those who slipped through Minato will have to face Allan. As the battle started, 4 people surrounded Allan before attacking him. Allan decisively attacked, killing all of them. As for Kakashi and Rin, they guarded outside the cave, as Minato instructed. Minato's flying thunder god was so strong that he was called Yellow Flash by his allies and enemies alike. And to deal with this, the more experienced rock ninjas used the double suicide decapitation technique to avoid him. The double suicide decapitation technique allowed the rock ninjas to hide under the earth and move freely without being seen. With the help of this technique, the rock ninjas escaped the flying thunder god. At this moment a rock ninja appeared quietly behind Rin. The reason why the rock ninja aimed for Rin was because she seemed the weakest here. Just when the rock ninja appeared, Kakashi noticed the danger and warned Rin, "Be careful." It was too late, however, as the rock ninja attacked Rin. Kakashi wasn't close enough to defend Rin. Minato was also dealing with the rock ninja and didn't react fast enough. Just when the attack was about to reach Rin, Allan made his move. At this moment, space seemed to stagnate and time stopped flowing. This is another ability that Allan gained from the space law, which he called time stop. He can slow down time or even stop in the space he controls. Allan can't achieve a complete time stop right now, but he was close enough. The radius of this technique was 500 meters, and within that range, all people and things were affected. Of course, he can't keep the time stop active for long, he can currently activate it only for 3 seconds. Moreover, this technique put a lot of stress on his mental power, and it would take him at least 4 hours of sleep to regain his energy. The 3 seconds time stop seemed to be short, but it was more than enough to rescue Rin and kill the rock ninja. Allan only needed less than a second to save Rin. When Allan released his technique, the surrounding rock ninja, and everyone else didn't notice the anomaly. Only Minato felt that the time flow seemed abnormal, but even so, he didn't know what was going on. But when they saw Rin was rescued by Allan, they sighed in relief and looked at Allan gratefully. "Thank you." "You're welcome." "Well, can you let me go?" "Oh, sorry." Only then did Allan realize that he was still holding Rin in his hand. After Rin mentioned it, Allan quickly released her and continued the battle. Although Minato eliminated most enemies, there were still a few hidings below the ground. But they weren't suppressing their chakra well enough, which made Minato pinpoint their location. A blue chakra ball appeared in Minato's hand, spinning at high speed. Allan recognized the Rasengan at a glance since he used it previously. The Rasengan directly drilled into the ground, killing the ninja hiding there. With the Rasengan and Flying Thunder God combo, Minato destroyed all ninjas hiding in the ground. Soon after, all enemy ninjas were annihilated. After finishing the fight, Minato came over to Allan and said, "Thank you for saving Rin just now." Allan waved his hand and said, "It's a trivial matter, don't worry. My name is Allan, by the way." Minato then said, "You have helped up a lot. I don't know where you are from, Allan-san, but you're really strong. The way you fought just now makes it seem like you used something similar to the Flying Thunder God technique I use." Allan didn't hide his ability and explained, "My ability is similar to your Flying Thunder God, as it allows me to teleport around as well. As for I am just a passerby, no special identity or residence." Minato was slightly surprised. "You have no residence and you're not affiliated with anyone? It seems like you're a wanderer." Allan was too lazy to explain that he was from another world and just nodded. "What are you going to do next?" Minato asked curiously. Allan thought for a bit and said, "I don't know. Probably wherever my legs take me." Allan didn't really think about where he is going to go next. Minato saw the troubled Allan and suggested, "You helped us many times, and if you don't mind, You can stay in Konoha as a guest. We welcome you there. Go to Konoha? Allan was stunned for a moment as he didn't expect Minato to take the initiative to invite him over. After thinking about it, Allan said, well, since Konoha is the strongest of the 5 great ninja villages, I'm really curious about it. Since you invited me, then I'm honored to accept. That's great. Minato smiled. Kakashi and Rin welcomed Allan as both of them were saved by him and liked him very much. Even though they didn't know who Allan was, it didn't prevent them from being grateful to him. I don't know if Obito can make it. After dealing with the rock ninjas, Kakashi looked at the cave in worry. Don't worry Kakashi, with Tsunade-sama here, Obito will definitively recover, Rin comforted. A day passed quickly, and the rock ninjas didn't appear again. At noon the next day, Tsunade finally came out of the cave. Minato, Kakashi, and Rin immediately greeted her and asked eagerly, Tsunade-sama, what happened to Obito's? Tsunade's expression looked a little tired, as she had spent a lot of chakras to save Obito, but she said in a low tone, I barely saved his life. In order to really cure him, we need to bring back Konoha's medical equipment. Fortunately, the boy's right eye was not damaged severely, and his vision has now been restored under my treatment. Kakashi said, since that's the case, let me transfer Obito back to the village for treatment. Time is of the essence. Tsunade looked at Minato and said, Minato, can you use the Flying Thunder God technique to transfer Obito back to the village? Hearing this, Minato shook his head and said, the distance is a bit far. With my current chakra, I'm afraid I can't do it. Tsunade nodded, showing her understanding, and did not force Minato, saying, if that's the case, then I can only let Katsuyu take Obito back to the village. Because slugs move slowly, it will take at least 2 days to get to Konoha from here. In order to ensure the safety of the road, someone needs to be an escort. Hearing this, Kakashi was the first to say, let me do it, I will definitely protect Obito. I will come as well, Rin said. What about you, Minato? Tsunade asked. Minato Namikaze hesitated for a moment, then said, although I really want to escort Obito back in person, there is one more thing I need to do. After that, Minato looked at Allan who was not far away, and said, Allan-san, since you are going to Konoha anyway, can I ask you to protect them on the way as a favor for me? At the same time, the system gave Allan another choice. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Agree to Minato Namikaze's request, and escort Obito back to Konoha with Kakashi. Reward, Rasengan. 2. Reject the request of Namikaze Minato, and no longer participate in the subsequent plot development. Reward, 1 exploding tag. After thinking for a second, Allan decisively chose option 1 and agreed to Minato's request. Don't worry, you have already invited me to Konoha as a guest, I will definitely protect them. Hearing Allan's answer, Minato Namikaze nodded and said, then I will leave it to you. Kakashi said, Minato-sensei, are you going to complete the unfinished task that we have not completed? Blow up the Kanabai Bridge? Minato Namikaze nodded, yes, although it's a bit late to do it now, a mission is a mission, and it must be done for the village. Hearing this, Kakashi said, I'm sorry, sensei, this should have been my task, but now I have to trouble sensei to do it. Minato Namikaze smiled, patted Kakashi on the shoulder, and said, I don't blame you, there are still many opportunities in the future. After that, Allan and Kakashi were responsible for escorting the slug who was transporting Obito back to Konoha. As for Namikaze Minato, he went to the Kanabai Bridge alone and replaced Kakashi and the others to complete the task of blowing it up. According to the arrangement, the escort team was led by Allan and Kakashi, who were responsible for clearing the way and guarding against enemy attacks. Nohara, Rin and Tsunade followed the slug, taking care of Obito. On the way, they didn't encounter any danger. Although it is during the Third Ninja War, they were inside the Fire Country, the risk is much less than outside. However, the less danger there is, the more vigilant they should be. Never let your guard down just because you are not in danger. Maybe the enemy is hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Sure enough, not long after, the enemy really appeared, and the enemy who appeared this time were rock ninjas. They used an earth wall to block Allan and the others' path. They planned to encircle Allan and the others within the earth wall and deal with them. Allan told Kakashi to break the wall with the Reikiri, and he took care of those rock ninjas. The two worked together very smoothly. Tsunade witnessed Allan's power for the first time. Seeing that Allan had dealt with rock ninjas so easily, she couldn't help but admire him, and at the same time, she was curious about his identity. After that, Allan and the others did not encounter any enemy again. In the afternoon of the second day, they finally arrived at Konoha. After entering Konoha, Allan completed this escort mission and also received the reward from the system, the Rasengan. Allan wasn't that happy about receiving the Rasengan because with his current power, the Rasengan wasn't necessary. In fact, being able to come to Konoha village made him even more excited. Walking through the streets of Konoha, Allan looked around the shops and the crowd on both sides and sighed, "Konoha is really prosperous. I've come to the right place." Allan really meant his words. Konoha was really a good place filled with life and harmony. Kakashi said, "Welcome to Konoha, I hope you like it here." Allan nodded. The idea of living here was great as he felt comfortable in this place. However, it wasn't easy for someone not from here to join the village. Fortunately, Allan killed a few rock ninjas on the way here to bring Obito, which can give him a way to join Konoha. When the Hokage learns about this, he will definitively talk with him. Therefore, he could stay in Konoha. He also needed someone to vouch for him, and Allan thought of Minato. If Minato can vouch for him, he could stay here. Minato won't be coming back soon, so Allan wasn't in a hurry. The group arrived at Konoha's hospital to escort Obito in. Tsunade glanced at Allan, then at Kakashi, and said, "Kakashi, your escort mission is completed. After rushing here for 2 days, you should take a rest. You can take Allan-san here and look for a place for him. I'm going to treat Uchiha Obito in the hospital. As for the report to Hokage-sama, Minato will do that when he gets back, so you don't have to report now." "Yes, Tsunade-sama," Kakashi replied. Rin followed Tsunade into the hospital as Obito kept muttering her name, so she will be an important part of his recovery. Allan followed Kakashi out of the hospital and strolled around Konoha for a while. Kakashi asked, "Allan-san, are you hungry? Let me treat you to some ramen." "Good idea." Allan was getting hungry, so he agreed readily. Kakashi took Allan to a ramen restaurant which was Ichiraku ramen for some reason. Allan ate 10 bowls before he was satisfied, which made Kakashi almost cry since he was the one paying. "Allan-san, you're amazing," Kakashi said to Allan after finishing his ramen. Allan smiled and asked, "Where are we going now?" Kakashi said, "It's getting late, so how about you come to my place for tonight and I will prepare a place for you until Minato-sensei returns." Allan shrugged and said, "Is it convenient? Won't I be intruding?" "It's okay, I'm living alone and there are many vacant rooms to live in," Kakashi said. "All right then, let's go," Allan laughed. Soon after walking a few hundred meters, Kakashi entered a compound. Kakashi pushed the door open and said, "Come in, this is my house." Allan looked around the house and said, "Your family is quite rich." Kakashi replied, "My father was a famous ninja and made a lot of money from missions." "What happened to him?" Allan asked knowingly. Kakashi's father was Konoha's White Fang, who is as strong if not stronger than the Sannin. But because he chose to save his comrades, he failed the mission and was criticized by almost everyone, which made him commit suicide. And just like that, a powerhouse fell. Soon enough, Kakashi replied, "My father commits suicide because of a mission." "Sorry, I asked something like that," Allan said. Kakashi shook his head and said, "It doesn't matter." After that, Kakashi arranged a room for Allan. Allan will temporarily live in Kakashi's house and went to sleep. The next morning, When Allan woke up, he saw Kakashi holding a short sword and practicing in the yard. Judging from the way he was swinging his sword, Kakashi seemed proficient and his style seemed quite strong. Kakashi was young but he was well trained. After a while, Kakashi noticed Allan coming out of his room and said, "Allan-san, good morning." Allan nodded and said, "Kakashi, your swordsmanship is good." Kakashi replied, "My father left this sword for me and I'm practicing the style he taught me." "Is that so?" Allan nodded as he already guessed that Kakashi's style was taught to him by the White Fang. Kakashi asked, "Allan-san, can you be my sparring partner? I want to evaluate my swordsmanship." Thing. Make a choice. 1. Accept Kakashi's request to be his sparring partner and defeat him. Reward, Ninjutsu Gift Pack X1. 2. Reject Kakashi's request, saying that you know nothing about swordsmanship and can't spar with him. Reward, Ninja Kit, Shuriken, Kunai, and stuff. Thinking for a second, Allan picked option 1 and agreed to spar with Kakashi. "Okay, Kakashi. I will spar with you for a while to see how good is your swordsmanship," Allan said cheerfully. Kakashi replied, "Thanks, Allan-san." In the yard, Allan hooked his finger at Kakashi and said with a smile, "Okay, let's see how good is your swordsmanship." Kakashi didn't do it directly as he saw Allan was unarmed and asked thoughtfully, "Allan-san, are you fighting empty-handed? Do you want to use a weapon?" Allan didn't want to use a weapon at first but since Kakashi asked, "Is there a kunai?" Hearing this, Kakashi took out a kunai and handed it to Allan. Allan waved it a few times and said, "Even though it's the first time I use one, it feels good in my hand. Can you give it to me?" "That's alright, Allan-san," Kakashi replied. "Thank you," Allan said gratefully. "Allan-san, can we start?" Kakashi asked. "Well, yes, you can attack at any time." "Then, here I come." Kakashi directly rushed forward and slashed at Allan. Allan held his kunai and blocked Kakashi's sword. Sparks flew as the metal weapons collided. Allan blocked Kakashi's first attack easily. Kakashi kept attacking Allan with everything he got, he used every attack he can use. The sound of metal colliding filled the yard as it grew intense. Kakashi was really fast, and he was also a good swordsman. Ordinary ninjas won't be able to defend against him. Kakashi was already a jonin and judging from his sword style, he was already a jonin swordsman. However, facing an opponent of Allan's level, no matter how superb or strong he was, Allan could easily block his attacks. Seeing that his attacks were blocked easily by Allan, Kakashi held the sword with both hands and said, "Next, I will show you my real skills." Then, the short blade suddenly radiated white light which made Allan narrow his eyes and said, "White chakra? This is the kenjutsu inherited from Konoha's White Fang? It looks strong." Hearing Allan mentions his father, Kakashi said, "You know my father?" Allan replied, "Only heard about him." Kakashi said, "This white chakra covering the blade is quite sharp, be careful Allan-san." Come on." Allan waved his kunai in anticipation since he wanted to see how strong the white chakra was. When the kunai and the white chakra blade collided, a crack formed on the kunai. Another light taps and it would shatter. "Allan-san, do you want to change your weapon? That kunai is cracked and will shatter soon," Kakashi said. "No, keep attacking." Allan didn't care. Seeing this, Kakashi was puzzled, but he didn't say much as he attacked again. The white chakra and kunai collided again, and unexpectedly, the kunai in Allan's hand didn't shatter as expected. The kunai didn't break. "What's going on?" Kakashi asked with a strange expression. Allan showed a mysterious smile. He used his nen to cover the kunai and make it as hard as possible. After a few more moves, Allan kicked Kakashi's sword and then sent him flying with another kick. "I won," Allan said. At the same time, Allan heard the system giving him his reward. Thing. You successfully defeated Kakashi and got a ninjutsu gift pack. Allan didn't open the ninjutsu gift pack. He glanced at Kakashi and stretched his hand to pull him up then asked with concern, "Sorry, Kakashi, are you okay?" Kakashi shook his head saying that it was alright. He knew that Allan was already holding back, otherwise, that kick was enough to kill him. Kakashi said with disappointment though, I lost, Allan, you're really good. His tone seemed slightly depressed. Kakashi was the best in his age group and generation. He was a genius who hardly suffered any losses in fights. But when he faced Allan, his kenjutsu didn't have any effect on Allan, which frustrated him. At the same time, it made him realize that he wasn't strong enough yet. Allan smiled and said, Kakashi, it's just a spar, it's not a life and death match, you don't have to be so serious. Kakashi admired Allan's mentality and strength. In his opinion, Allan shouldn't be weaker than Minato. After the fight with Kakashi, Allan lost his kunai. Because of the fight, the kunai cracked and broke just as the fight ended. Seeing that Allan felt bad for the kunai, Kakashi said, Allan, I will give you a new kunai. Kakashi took his ninja kit and said, there are 3 kunai, 6 shuriken, 2 smoke bombs, and an explosive tag here. Kakashi gave him the kit and Allan looked gratefully at him. Thanks, I just needed 1 kunai. Kakashi shook his head, you saved me and my teammates, and now you helped me train, so that's the least I could do, please accept it. Okay, thank you. Allan smiled and took the kit from Kakashi. Although this ninja kit had no use for someone as strong as Allan, maybe it can be useful. After having breakfast, Kakashi asked, by the way Allan, can you give me your honest thoughts about my kenjutsu? Allan replied after some thought, you are quite proficient, to be honest. If you take some time to refine your kenjutsu, you will definitively surpass your father. Kakashi nodded and said, I will try my best. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared beside Kakashi in a yellow flash. Allan wasn't concerned about Minato appearing here out of nowhere. Kakashi saw Minato appearing beside him and said in surprise, Minato-sensei, how did you get here? Minato replied, didn't I give you the Flying Thunder God kunai, I just teleported here. Oh, right, Kakashi remembered the kunai. Then Minato-sensei, is the Kanabi Bridge's mission complete? Kakashi asked in concern. Well, it's done, I just came back. Minato looked a little tired. You worked hard, sensei. After chatting for a while with Kakashi, Minato looked at Allan and said, Allan-san, Hokage-sama wants to meet you. Let's go then, Allan agreed readily. He also really wanted to meet Hiruzen Sarutobi. After all, in Naruto's world, he is called the Professor, who knew every jutsu in Konoha except for the clan and blood limit ones. Allan was excited to meet a cage-level powerhouse. Half an hour later, Allan followed Minato to the Hokage Tower, which is practically a landmark in Konoha. Inside the Hokage office, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat in front of his desk with Shimura Danzo standing next to him. They looked in their 40s or 50s. Minato said, Hokage-sama, this is Allan. Hiruzen nodded and looked at Allan and said, hello, I'm Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage of Konoha. I've heard from Minato that you saved Kakashi and the others, thank you for saving them. You're welcome, Allan replied. Sarutobi then asked, so, is there anything you want? Allan thought for a bit and said, if possible, I would like to stay in Konoha. Hiruzen was surprised by Allan's request as he said, you mean you want to settle down here? Allan nodded, that's right, I hope it isn't too much. I hope you can agree to my request, Sandaime Hagek. Hiruzen stared directly at Allan and asked, why do you want to stay in our village? Is there a special reason? Allan smiled lightly, actually, there is no special reason, just that Konoha seemed pleasant to live in. Hearing this, Hiruzen glanced at Danzo, who understood what his former teammate and rival wanted. Although you saved the ninjas from our village, we don't know anything about you, we don't even know if your name is real or not. It's not an easy thing to let you stay in Konoha and settle down. We need to verify your identity before we can decide whether to agree to your request or not. Allan's expression turned cold. It was obvious that Hiruzen and Danzo were suspicious of him. He just sneered and said, I know that you two are suspicious of me. You might even think that I'm a spy sent by an enemy and want to collect information here, right? Danzo's expression cracked slightly as he didn't expect Allan to just say that bluntly. Hiruzen thought was calm as he laughed and said, Allan, we don't suspect that you're a spy, but you made yourself suspicious by saying that. Allan smiled, although you two sirs didn't directly say that I'm a spy, you are thinking about it and I don't blame you for it. After all, my identity is indeed suspicious. It's good that you know, Danzo said. So, how do you want me to verify my identity? Allan asked Danzo with a cold face. Danzo replied, just tell me where you were born, who are your parents, and if you have family members, your previous job, etc. We will send someone to confirm your words, and if there is really no problem with your identity, we can let you stay in Konoha. Hearing this, Allan snorted coldly and glanced at Hiruzen. It's obvious that Hiruzen shared the same thoughts. Those two old monsters suspected that he was a spy sent here for information, which made him quite unhappy. At this time, the system gave him a choice. Ding. Make a choice. 1. Facing the suspicion of being a spy, explain to Danzo and Hiruzen your real identity as a world traveler. Reward, an A-rank fire ninjutsu gift pack. 2. It's inconvenient and dangerous to say the truth, keep your identity hidden. Reward, a B-rank ninjutsu gift pack. 3. Use force to suppress Danzo and Hiruzen and make them agree to your request. Reward, an A-rank wind ninjutsu gift pack. Allan eliminated the first and third options without hesitation. Although their rewards were better, Allan still rejected them. The reason was simple, his identity as a world traveler would cause a lot of trouble and he didn't want to fight against Hiruzen and Danzo. If he were to fight both of them, then that means that the entire village would fight against Allan, and the latter didn't want that. Thinking about this, Allan shrugged and said, Hokage-sama, my identity doesn't need any verification, and I'm not that suspicious. There is no need to waste manpower and time to verify this. Hearing this, Danzo said, is it that inconvenient to say, or are you just a spy from another village trying to infiltrate our village? With the last sentence, Danzo almost revealed a trace of killing intent. He was obviously very suspicious of Allan. If he was a spy, Danzo would quickly get rid of him, like many before him, or so Danzo thought. Danzo won't show mercy for anyone who can be a danger to Konoha. Allan sneered at Danzo and said, it doesn't matter really, you can send people to verify my identity or if anyone knows me, but I will assure you that no matter who you send or how many, there won't be any information about me in this world. Danzo said, no one can completely hide their information, and our intelligence network is very strong, so we can find out whatever we want sooner or later. Hopefully, by then, you want to turn out to be a spy, Allan-san. Hearing this, Allan laughed, and loudly at that. Hiruzen and Danzo, even Minato on the other side of the door, were puzzled by Allan's sudden laughter. Danzo angrily said, Allan-san, this is the Hokage's office, restrain yourself. What are you laughing at? Allan restrained his laugh as he looked directly at Danzo and said, I laugh because you're too confident. Because you can't find information about me. Hearing this, Danzo said, you are underestimating the intelligence network of Konoha. Allan shook his head and said, I'm not underestimating anything. Because in this world, there is nothing on me, no family, job, or identity. So, you won't find anything about me. No one can be without a life, there should be something that we can find, Danzo said as he didn't believe Allan. Hiruzen commented, if it is a war orphan, that would make sense. From he was born, he didn't have parents, in short, he lived alone for most of his life, without a single place to stay in, like a wanderer, right? Allan shrugged and said, I can only tell you that I came from a faraway place. A continent that has nothing with your own, that's all I can say. Trying to be mysterious, Danzo muttered. Hiruzen said, are you implying that you're not from this continent but from another one? Possibly. Allan shrugged. Danzo said, Hiruzen, that's absurd. The latter replied, Danzo, You should know that this world is vast, and we only see the surface of it. There are other people in other places. Danzo said, Of course, I know that, but this guy is still too suspicious. At this moment, Minato intervened. Hokage-sama, Danzo-sama, Allan helped me and accompanied me for a while. I think he is reliable and trustworthy. I hope you can allow him to stay and I will be responsible if anything happens. Danzo replied, Minato, you're too naive. Hiruzen pondered for a while before raising his hand and said, Okay, since Minato trusts you, you can stay in Konoha. Thank you. Danzo warned, Don't think that you can live in Konoha without care. If I find that you disobey the law or do anything suspicious, we will throw you out, or even kill you. I understand, I won't do anything bad, don't worry, Allan replied. Although Allan wasn't afraid, he still wanted to stay in Konoha, so he didn't pay people like Danzo any mind. Minato, about where Allan should live, it's up to you to arrange his lodging for now, Hiruzen said. Yes, Hokage-sama, Minato replied. After walking out of the Hokage Tower, Allan looked toward Minato and said, Minato, thank you, without you, I don't think I would have convinced them that I don't mean any harm by staying here, and they wouldn't have allowed me to live in Konoha. Minato smiled and said, You're welcome, this is what I should do. Besides, it's our village's honor to have a talent like you here. Allan nodded before sighing inwardly at Minato's broad mind and vision. Danzo was nothing compared to him. By the way, Minato, Hokage-sama asked you to arrange a residence for me, do you have a place in mind? Allan asked curiously. Although he doesn't have any high requirements for a place to live, he thought that it's better to be in a place with a good environment. Minato replied, You're staying at Kakashi's place right now, but if you want, you can stay with me for some time. Your house? Allan was surprised. Minato said, You don't want to? Allan replied, Isn't it inconvenient to live in your house? Won't your wife complain about me? Hearing this, Minato laughed hard. Ha 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 ha, I'm not married yet, where did this lady come from? I see, that means you live alone now. Allan understood that Minato didn't marry Kushina yet. At this time, Kakashi appeared beside them. Hearing that Allan was looking for a place to stay, Kakashi said, Allan-san, you should stay with me, after all, you can be my sparring partner and help me get stronger. Allan shrugged and said, Well, since you asked, I will stay in your place. Minato, sorry, I will visit you when I have time and stay over if you want. You're welcome anytime. Minato smiled. Just like this, Allan got his wish to stay in Konoha and he temporarily lived in Kakashi's house. In addition to sparring every day with Kakashi, Allan spends some of his time enjoying the new experience in Konoha. Time flew by and before he knew it, Allan has been in Konoha for a month. Allan has been staying at Kakashi's house for the past month as he trained with Kakashi almost every day. In the woods a few kilometers away from Kakashi's house, Allan and Kakashi were sparring like usual. Kakashi attacked fiercely with his sword and Allan defended with a kunai. After nearly a month of training with Allan, Kakashi progressed steadily in his swordsmanship. He was highly praised by Allan. Allan, thank you for accompanying me in training for the last month, Kakashi said gratefully. I'm surprised by how fast you're progressing, Kakashi, Allan replied. By the way, Allan-san, this is a chakra paper to test your nature's affinity as you've asked. Taking the chakra paper from Kakashi, Allan smiled lightly, Thanks, I'm going to test my chakra now. Soon, his chakra passed through the paper and Allan was surprised that he had all 5 chakra natures. He had wind, lightning, water, earth, and fire, which means that he can use all non-blood limit ninjutsu. Only Hiruzen Sarutobi can use all 5 chakra natures in Konoha right now. Most Jonin had 2 and rarely 3. Seeing he has an affinity for the 5 basic chakra natures, Allan wanted to try his ninjutsu. At present, he can perform the Academy 3, which are the transformation, the substitution, and the clone. He also knows Mud Clone, Rasengan, Fire Release, Fireball, Lightning Release, false darkness. Allan obtained the techniques from the ninjutsu gift boxes. The first he needed to test was the Rasengan, which didn't need a chakra nature, and was one of the few techniques that didn't need hand seals while also being one of the strongest techniques. If he added chakra nature to it, it would be at the peak of rank S ninjutsu. Forming the Rasengan in his hand, Allan faced a boulder as he bellowed, "Rasengan!" With one blow, a huge rock burst open. Allan nodded with satisfaction. Rasengan was indeed a powerful ninjutsu. Although he used it before in Hunter x Hunter World, he was still amazed at the power it packed. If he wanted it to be stronger, he needed to add a chakra nature to it, but Allan didn't plan on doing so anytime soon, since it was too time-consuming. The current version was sufficient. Besides, Allan had other ninjutsu other than the Rasengan, so after the test, he proceeded to make a few hand seals before he spews a huge fireball from his mouth. The huge fireball hit a tree, burning it down quickly. However, there is a saying in Naruto's world that says, "A fireball isn't enough to kill anyone, especially one that can't hit." That wasn't wrong, even though the fireball was strong, one of the strongest C-rank ninjutsu, it was fast enough to actually hit even a Junon. Fortunately, Allan wasn't expecting much from the fireball technique, so he wasn't disappointed much. Finally, Allan was testing the lightning release, false darkness, which should be quite powerful. Since he was testing a lightning release jutsu, the best judge for that would be Kakashi, so Allan directly called him. Soon, Kakashi arrived. "Kakashi, I've learned a new lightning-style jutsu, can help me test its power?" "Lightning? Sure, let's try it against my Chidori." Kakashi readily agreed. In the next second, Allan's hand formed the seals required before shouting, "Lightning release, false darkness." Immediately, a lightning bolt rushed toward Kakashi at an extreme speed, who was prepared with his Chidori. Seeing the lightning attack rushing toward him, Kakashi didn't slack as he blocked it using his Chidori. Kakashi's face was serious as cold sweat dripped from his forehead. The false darkness jutsu Allan released was so strong that his Chidori almost couldn't stop, so he supercharged Chidori with chakra hoping to overpower the lightning jutsu. Zzz. Although he was finally successful in blocking it, it consumed a huge chunk of Kakashi's chakra. Seeing Kakashi struggle to stop his attack, Allan smiled satisfied at its power. False darkness was around B rank, but Allan managed to make it reach A rank ninjutsu. What kind of lightning ninjutsu was that? It's amazing. Kakashi asked curiously. He didn't expect to wear himself out like that just to block a lightning jutsu. It's a lightning release ninjutsu, it's called false darkness. Kakashi hesitated for a bit before he asked, "Allan, can you teach it to me?" Facing Allan's request, the system gave him a choice. Make a choice. 1. Agree to Kakashi's request and teach him lightning release, false darkness. Reward, water clone jutsu. 2. Refuse Kakashi's request. Reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Allan picked the first option almost instantly. "Okay, I will teach it to you," Allan laughed. "Thanks." Kakashi was excited as he didn't expect Allan to agree. Allan actually didn't want to spend time teaching Kid Kakashi, but the reward from the system was good. Kakashi said, "I will teach you Chidori then, it will be an ninjutsu exchange between us." "Teach me Chidori?" Allan was a little surprised as he didn't expect that Kakashi would offer the Chidori. Allan said, "Well, since that's the case, let's start. I will teach you lightning release, false darkness, and you will teach me Chidori." Yes. Kakashi had no problem with this. 2 days later, Kakashi mastered false darkness and can use it easily. Allan wasn't surprised by this, since Kakashi was really a genius. He created an A-rank ninjutsu when he was 10. He actually could perform the false darkness jutsu in just half a day, while Allan took 2 days to learn Chidori. After Kakashi learned it, Allan got his water clone reward from the system. By the way, how is Obita right now? After finishing their training, Allan asked Kakashi. It's been more than a month since the Kanabai Bridge mission, and Obito was rescued by Tsunade. Kakashi replied, Obito is recuperating at home. Tsunade-sama said that although his body was repaired, he would need at least half a year to fully recover. Allan nodded by the thought that with Obito's impatience, he would not stay at home and would definitively go out. At this time, Rin comes over running. Seeing this, Kakashi asked quickly, What happened, Rin? Rin hurriedly explained, Obito's not home. I went to visit him, but I couldn't find him. Did you ask around? Kakashi asked. Rin shook her head and said, I searched around and couldn't find him. I also asked a few people and they said they didn't see him. Kakashi frowned and started getting anxious. Kakashi, what should we do? Rin asked. Kakashi thought for a while and said, You go inform Minato-sensei, and I will go look around to see if I find anything. Okay, I'm going. Kakashi turned to Allan and asked, Allan, can you help us find Obito? At this time, the system gave him another choice. Make a choice. 1. Help Kakashi and go find Obito with him. Find Obito within 24 hours. Reward, a rank genjutsu, Kokwang Iusatsu, illusion technique, infinite darkness. 2. Don't help out, making excuses about it being a private matter that doesn't concern you and having no time. Reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. After seeing his choice, Allan picked the first option and nodded, I will help, let's go together. Thank you, Kakashi said gratefully. Afterward, Allan and Kakashi quickly moved toward Obito's house in the Uchiha clan compound. The Nine-Tails incident has yet to happen, so the Uchiha clan compound was still in the center of Konoha. After arriving there, Allan and Kakashi directly went toward Obito's house. Kakashi pointed and said, This is Obito's house, he usually lives with his grandma. I've come here a few times before. Walking into the house, Obito's grandma saw Kakashi and said, Kakashi, it's been a long time since I last saw you. Kakashi replied, Grandma, do you know where Obito is? She rubbed her chin and said, I don't know, I didn't see him when I woke up in the morning. I don't know where he went. Can you look for him? That kid is still recovering and is still running around. Kakashi assured her, Don't worry, Grandma, I will find Obito. Kakashi then turned around and said to Allan, Let's go to the forest nearby and look there. Allan nodded. After entering the wood, the two of them found several shuriken and kunai on the ground and on the trees around. There are traces of battle here, Allan said. Kakashi followed, That's right, the shuriken and kunai should belong to Obito. Someone was here for him. Kakashi was now sure that Obito is in danger and became anxious for his friend. Allan patted Kakashi's shoulder and said, Calm down, Obito is probably still alive. We should split up and look for him. Also, be careful of enemies there, don't be careless. I will be careful. Kakashi nodded. The two of them split apart and each went to one side searching for Obito. A few moments later, Allan found something. In the depth of the forest, Obito's situation was bad. He was currently fighting a white man. Allan recognized Zetsu at a glance, who seemed to want to take Obito forcibly to Madara since the original plan didn't work. As for Obito, he was desperately resisting his kidnapper. It's a pity that his body was still far from completely recovering and can only fight slightly with his left side. At this time, Zetsu held Obito's body and tried to devour him. Zetsu was also known as the Will of Kaguya Otsutsuki. He had two forms, white and black. At this time, it was White Zetsu who was attacking Obito. The white half is a clone that can copy the chakra signature easily and can be used as a reconnaissance mainly, but it still can fight. In another future, had Allan didn't intervene, Obito would have been taken by Zetsu. But after he interfered, Allan thought that Zetsu wouldn't target Obito since he was in Konoha. After finding Obito, a new choice appeared in front of Allan. Make a choice. 1. Save Obito. Reward, ninjutsu treasure chest. 2. Sit back and watch as Obito is taken away. Reward, Ninjutsu small gift pack. Allan decided to save Obito, and he had two reasons. The first is the reward, and the second is that he hates Zetsu's guts. Furthermore, Allan didn't want to see Madara resurrected, so he wouldn't let Obito be taken away. Okay, let's try the genjutsu I just got. Allan made hand seals and activated infinite darkness. This is a high-level genjutsu that can create absolute darkness that prevented any type of light inside. At this time, Zetsu almost completely possessed Obito. Obito temporarily lost consciousness because of the possession. Zetsu, who was about to leave, suddenly found his surroundings turning black. Soon, he couldn't even see himself anymore. Zetsu, who was rendered blind, felt a sense of fear suddenly creep into his being. At this time, Allan quickly approached Zetsu, who couldn't even notice him due to his panic and blindness. When he finally wanted to take action, he heard the sound of chirping birds. The disadvantage of Chidori was the need for high visual perception due to the tunnel vision created by the high speed of the user. Allan used infinite darkness to stop Zetsu in place for a while and get an advantage by using Chidori's speed to plunge his hand into his enemy. This way, Zetsu won't be able to react and move to the side to avoid the Chidori. The Chidori stuck Zetsu, who was paralyzed by the electricity running through him while he screamed in the darkness. In the darkness, Zetsu was hit by a Chidori and was screaming from the pain. His body fell off Obito's like a liquid on the ground. Allan released the infinite darkness genjutsu, returning the light to their surrounding. He saw Obito lying on the ground, but Zetsu was already gone. Allan knew that Zetsu wasn't that easily killed and he most likely escaped and couldn't help saying, "You really run fast." At this time, Allan received his reward. Thing. You successfully rescued Obito from Zetsu. Reward, Ninjutsu treasure chest. Open the treasure chest, Allan said. Thing. You've opened a ninjutsu treasure chest and received Earth Release, Earth-style wall. Allan obtained a defensive Earth ninjutsu which was quite good. At this time, Kakashi rushed over and saw Obito on the ground. Allan reassured, Obito is fine, he just fainted. I will tell you what happened when we go back. Okay. Kakashi nodded as he carried Obito on his back toward the hospital. After settling Obito in the hospital, Allan informed Kakashi of what happened. That's the gist of it. That guy named Zetsu wanted to kidnap Obito, but I injured him and he ran away. Hearing this, Kakashi asked, why does he want Obito? Allan shook his head, although he knew why he wasn't going to tell Kakashi that Zetsu was ordered by Madara Uchiha. Although he wanted to tell them that Madara was alive, he didn't have a reason to actually tell them. Furthermore, if he were to just announce that, they would suspect him further and he won't be able to stay in Konoha anymore. That's why Allan didn't intend to tell them about Madara. Soon, Rin and Minato came to visit Obito in the hospital. They breathed a sigh of relief when they learned that Obito was fine. Kakashi informed them that a guy named Zetsu wanted to kidnap Obito, but Allan rescued him, which made them very grateful. Minato brought Allan to the side as he said, I'm really sorry that I let you save my student again, it appears that I'm an incompetent teacher. Allan smiled slightly, don't say that. You have your missions to do and you won't find the time to always protect them. Minato said, do you have time this evening? I will treat you to dinner as thanks for saving Obito again. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Accept Minato's invitation. Reward, body flicker technique. 2. Reject Minato's invitation. Reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Allan accepted Minato's invitation, which directly gave him knowledge of the body flicker technique as a reward. Allan then asked, so, what are you treating me to? Minato scratched the back of his head and said, although I really want to invite you to eat at my house, my cooking skills are not very good. So I'll invite you to eat barbecue, what do you think? Barbecue? Yes, that's good. Allan readily agreed. In the evening, Allan along with Kakashi arrived at the busiest street in Konoha, which was the commercial street in the center of Konoha. Allan and Kakashi arrived at a barbecue shop, and the latter said, Minato-sensei should be already inside, let's go in. Allan nodded and walked inside. As they went in, Allan found that Minato invited quite a few people. Other than Kakashi and Rin, there is also Tsunade, who had a young body sitting next to her. There was also a red-haired woman on his left, which is obviously Kushina. Minato noticed Allan and immediately said, "Allan, let me introduce you, this is Kushina." "Hello, I heard a lot about you from Minato, you're really strong." Kushina took the initiative to greet Allan, who nodded back at Kushina and greeted her back. Then Minato pointed at the boy and said, "This is Tsunade-sama's younger brother, Nawaki." Allan's eyes moved from Kushina to Nawaki. Nawaki and Tsunade both belonged to the Senju family, and Nawaki looked a lot like Naruto with a similar personality. Even their goals were the same, as both wanted to be Hokage. Naruto wasn't born yet, and originally, Nawaki would die during this ninja war by an explosive tag, in a mission. Since Nawaki was still here, then he still didn't go on that mission, but if Allan let it be, then he would die in the same mission. Thinking about this, and although Allan wanted to tell him to be careful, he considered that he was meeting him for the first time and they didn't know each other, so he just couldn't show concern. So, in the end, Allan gave up on saying anything to Nawaki. Tsunade, who was sitting next to Nawaki, saw Allan's gaze linger on Nawaki and said, "Why are you staring at my brother all this time?" "It's nothing." Allan shook his head. At this time, Minato stood up with a cup in his hand and said, "Allan, sorry that I don't drink, but let me give you a toast with tea for saving Obito today." Being able to receive a toast from Konoha's yellow flash wasn't something easy. Allan raised his glass filled with wine and said, "Cheers." This was the first time Allan tasted Konoha's sake. It didn't have a high concentration of alcohol and was a little sweet, but his throat felt hot after drinking it. "Oh? You seem to be a good drinker." Seeing Allan drink the entire cup in one go, Tsunade commented with admiration. "I'm decent." Allan smiled. A mere glass of sake is nothing to him. Seeing his confidence, Tsunade said, "If that's the case, how about accompanying me for a drink?" "Drinking with you?" Allan was a little surprised. "What, you're afraid?" Tsunade asked back. Allan wanted to refuse initially, but a sudden system interruption stopped him. Ding. Make a choice. 1. Drink with Tsunade, and outdrink her. Reward, medical ninjutsu, mystical palm jutsu. 2. Reject Tsunade. Reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Allan accepted Tsunade's request without hesitation after seeing the option he got. "Okay, I will accompany you for a drink." "Good." Seeing Allan agreeing, Tsunade nodded in satisfaction. Allan then said, "Tsunade, are we the only two drinkings?" Tsunade glanced at everyone and then asked Minato, "Minato, do you want to drink?" Minato hurriedly shook his head, "Tsunade-sama, you know I can't drink, I have a mission tomorrow." Tsunade nodded before she looked at Kakashi and Rin, "Both of you are still too young to drink." Kakashi and Rin nodded quickly, as they had no interest, to begin with. "Can I drink, Ne-san?" Nawaki sitting next to Tsunade asked. "As if you brat." Tsunade rolled her eyes at Nawaki. In the end, Tsunade's gaze landed on Kushina, and said, "Kushina, do you want to accompany us for a drink?" Kushina hesitated for a moment before she nodded. Since Tsunade-sama asked, "I will drink a little." Tsunade nodded with satisfaction and looked at Allan and said, "Okay, let us three start." Allan smiled lightly and said, "How are we doing this? Bar dice, or boxing?" Tsunade's eyes lit up as she said, "You know that as well? Then let's start with punches first." "Sounds good," Allan replied. Kushina was a little embarrassed as she asked, "I don't know anything about boxing." "It's okay, I will teach you, it's very simple," Tsunade said in a big sister voice. "Okay then," Kushina agreed. So next, Allan, Tsunade, and Kushina started the drinking game. The three of them sat together and whoever loses had to drink a cup. Because Kushina was new to this, she kept losing and had to drink 10 cups in just 2 minutes and started feeling funny. Even though she started feeling funny, Kushina had a strong personality and didn't want to appear weak in front of anyone. Minato, Kakashi, and the others were watching the competition and were dumbfounded by Kushina's alcohol tolerance. Minato knew that Kushina was pushing herself and asked, "Kushina, do you want me to drink instead of you?" "Minato, didn't you say that you can't drink?" Kushina asked back. "It's okay," Minato replied. "Okay then, you drink," Kushina agreed. Minato did drink 2 cups, but after that, he was completely drunk. Kushina was dumbfounded at this development, and Allan was speechless. He didn't expect Minato's tolerance to be so weak. When Kakashi saw this, he said, "I will take Minato-sensei back first." Allan nodded and said, "Go ahead." "Kakashi, I will help too," Rin said. As they left, Allan asked Tsunade, "Do you want to continue?" "Yes, we're not drunk yet," Tsunade replied. She wasn't just a gambler, but she was also addicted to alcohol. Tsunade then said to Nawaki, "You go back home first." Nawaki wanted to stay, but he couldn't argue with Tsunade, so he just went back home. So, only Kushina, Tsunade, and Allan were left there as they continued their competition. Kushina was losing badly, so Allan lost a few times on purpose to help her a bit. But Kushina noticed this and felt bad. Allan wasn't afraid of drinking because he had his gourmet stomach, which can turn any food or drink he consumes into energy. After drinking all night, Tsunade was drunk, while Allan looked fine. As for Kushina, she was the first to get drunk and drop out of the game. He made a clone to send Tsunade home while he dropped Kushina at her house before heading toward Kakashi's place. In a dark underground cave, a thin old man sat on a stone chair. Although he was disheveled and skinny, his aura was still strong. This used to be one of the strongest people in the ninja world. This is the man who stood side by side with the god of shinobi Hashirama Senju. This was Madara Uchiha. This place seemed like a place between the underworld and the world of the living. It was similar to Limbo. Madara used Izanagi to deceive Hashirama and cheat death. It was due to that he discovered this place, a place for him to plan for the infinite Tsukuyomi project. "Zetsu isn't back yet?" Madara whispered. Now, he was almost 100 years old, his body was very weak and withering. Suddenly, Zetsu emerged from the ground. Seeing Zetsu, Madara said, "Zetsu, what's the matter? Why are you back so late? Where is Uchiha Obito? Don't tell me you couldn't sneak into Konoha and bring him here?" Facing Madara's questioning, Zetsu's face looked contorted as he gritted his teeth. "Madara-sama, I managed to sneak into Konoha and take control of Obito's body, and was already coming here, but suddenly, someone attacked me and took him away. It's the same guy who rescued Obito on the Kangabai Bridge. He first used a genjutsu, infinite darkness, to deprive me of my vision, and covered his hand in lightning and shoved it into my body. I only managed to escape and save my life, otherwise, that guy would have killed me." Hearing this, Madara looked at Zetsu suspiciously. "You said he deprived you of vision using infinite darkness? Isn't that Tobirama's jutsu? How did that guy manage to learn it? Is he from the Senju clan?" Zetsu shook his head. He didn't know where that guy come from. Previously, it was White Zetsu talking. At this time, Black Zetsu said, "That's right, that guy used the infinite darkness that Tobirama invented, and he used the Chidori developed by a kid named Kakashi. He seems to be quite versatile and hard to deal with." Madara asked in a deep voice, "What's his name?" "He is called Allan." Zetsu replied, "He lives with the kid named Kakashi in Konoha." Madara said, "Investigate that guy and find out every detail about him. I want to know about this guy that hindered my plan over and over again." "Got it." Both Zetsus said at the same time. At this time, Zetsu once again went to Konoha to investigate Allan. At this time, Tsunade was in front of Kakashi's house as she called for Allan. Allan opened the door and said, "Tsunade-sama, why are you here? Allan asked curiously. Let's go to a bar and drink, Tsunade said straight to the point. What drinking again? Allan was speechless. What? You have anything else to do? Tsunade asked. No. Allan shook his head. So, you're free? Tsunade asked. Very free. Allan nodded. Isn't it fine then? I don't have anything to do either, so accompany me to the bar, Tsunade said. Okay. Allan could only reluctantly agree. For some time now, after that barbecue night and the boxing they did, Tsunade would come to Allan to accompany her to a drink. For an alcoholic gambler like Tsunade, it's hard to find a drinking buddy like Allan, who won't lose in a drinking competition. For Allan, drinking alcohol was like drinking water, no matter how much he drank, he won't get drunk. So, every time they drink together, it was always Tsunade who gets drunk. Tsunade was unwilling to accept her loss. After all, she was drinking for a long time and was good at it. But, she didn't seem to be able to outdrink Allan. Every time, she would be dead drunk, while not only was Allan not drunk, he can even send her drunk self back home safely. After some time, everyone in Konoha knew that Tsunade was drinking with a man named Allan recently. As soon as he became famous, all sorts of rumors started spreading. When Allan was walking down the street, he was receiving stares from many people, but Allan didn't care about their eyes. The gossip was naturally heard by Tsunade, and although she didn't care about what people said, she was still embarrassed that people's minds went to dirty places when they saw Allan taking Tsunade home every time they drink together. However, she knew that while Allan sends her home, he never took advantage of her and was very disciplined. Tsunade knew this and appreciated Allan's behavior. Although they were 10 years apart with her being older, it didn't affect the favorable impression she had of Allan. When Tsunade came again today for a drink, Allan wanted to refuse since there are so many rumors already and he didn't want them to continue. But Tsunade insisted and he had to agree again. After the two finished their drink, Tsunade said, "Thank you for taking me home when I was drunk before. I have a mission tomorrow and I have to leave the village, and won't be back for a while, so, we'll drink when I get back, okay?" Of course, Allan agreed. Then it's settled. Tsunade rarely showed a happy smile, but she smiled right now. Under a tree, a young man with long blue hair and wearing a ninja vest saw Tsunade's smile and his expression became complicated. He had envy and jealousy in his eyes. He clenched his fists and slammed them against a tree as he wondered, "Tsunade, why are you smiling happily at that guy? Could it be you like him?" After parting, Allan walked around since it was still early and he had nothing to do. Because he was close to Tsunade recently, many people know him and most of them think that he had a special relationship with her. Allan didn't both explain those rumors. He and Tsunade were drinking buddies, nothing else. Just as he turned into an alley, a young man stood in front of Allan. Allan stopped and glanced at the man. He was the same young man from before. Allan found this guy familiar, but couldn't remember his name. "Who are you?" Allan asked. "Kato-dan," said the man. Oh, it turned out to be this guy. Allan suddenly remembered who Kato-dan was. Kato-dan is a jonin. Originally, he is Tsunade's first love. He had a sense of justice and wanted to bring peace to the village and was inspired to be the Hokage. During a mission, he was seriously injured and Tsunade couldn't save him even with her superb medical skills, which led her to fear blood later on. Now, Kato-dan was still alive, and Allan could guess why Kato-dan looked for him. It was mostly because of Tsunade since he was close to the blonde recently, but Allan still pretended that he didn't know anything and asked, "You're looking for me? Is there something?" "Sure enough," Kato-dan replied seriously, "I know you have been close to Tsunade lately, and I hope you stop drinking with her." Hearing this, Allan smiled and looked at Kato-dan. "You should get your facts together, it was Tsunade looking for me to drink, and never the other way around." Dan's face became ugly as he knew that he was wrong but still held firm. "In short, I don't want you to get close to Tsunade again." Oh? Why? Allan's mouth rose in a slight smile while asking knowingly. Because. Dan hesitated. He really didn't want people to know about his feelings for Tsunade. Seeing that he didn't speak, Allan said, "If you're not saying anything, then I'm leaving. Because Tsunade and I are childhood friends, we are childhood sweethearts, is that good enough reason?" Kato Dan stated. Allan nodded and said, "Understood, that means you liked Tsunade, right?" Dan said nothing because Allan was right, he had a secret crush on Tsunade, but he didn't confess his love to her. Allan shrugged and said, "It's your business if you liked Tsunade, but you have no right or qualification to stop me from coming in contact with her, understand?" Allan didn't want to talk much with Dan, but seeing Dan's tone as he ordered him to leave Tsunade alone, he immediately wanted to oppose him. The more Dan wanted him to stay away from Tsunade, the more he will see her. In a word, he wanted to make Dan mad. Sure enough, Allan's word made Dan angry. He clenched his fists and said, "I want to fight you for Tsunade." "Fight me? Are you serious?" Allan thought he heard wrong. Dan stated, "That's right, I want to fight you. If you win, I won't stop you from talking and hanging out with Tsunade. Thing. Make a choice. 1. Accept Kato Dan's challenge and defeat him. Reward, ninjutsu gift pack. 2. Reject Kato Dan's challenge. Reward, small ninjutsu gift pack. Okay, I will fight you." For the reward's sake, Allan accepted the challenge. Dan said, "This is not a suitable place for a fight, let's go to the nearby woods, so we don't attract attention." Allan thought that no matter where he went, the result would be the same, but he still went to the wood. "You think far ahead, even if you lose here, no one will know and you won't be embarrassed," Allan said. Hearing this, Dan snorted coldly, "Do you think you can beat me? As a Jonin from Konoha, I have confidence in my power." Allan replied, "You will know when you try." As the battle started, Dan made a few hand seals before launching an attack on Allan. He attacked using a fireball, which was good. Allan formed hand seals and said, "Fire release, fireball jutsu." In an instant, a huge fireball collided with Dan's own fireball. The two fireballs exploded, creating a small crater on the ground. The high temperature made Allan and Dan take a step back. When Kato saw this, his hand formed seals again. Water release, water colliding wave jutsu. Water appeared in an instant from the ground and coiled around Dan before it rose like a tornado and headed toward Allan, trying to engulf him. This was a technique created by Tobirama Senju, and Dan was able to master this move to a great degree, which shows his power. Allan didn't move, and after forming a few hand seals, he slammed his hands on the ground. Earth release, earth-style wall jutsu. A huge earth wall emerged in front of Allan, blocking the water from hitting Allan. "It's amazing to be able to block my exploding water colliding wave with an earth wall." As Allan blocked Kato Dan's last attack, the latter started making hand seals again, and this time, he used lightning ninjutsu. Lightning attacks were the fastest attacks, and in terms of chakra nature, lightning beats earth. Kato Dan wanted to take Allan's earth wall using a lightning attack. Immediately after taking down Allan's earth wall, Dan once again launched another attack. When Allan saw this, he quickly used his own lightning attack. Lightning release, false darkness. In an instant, two dazzling beams of lightning eventually cancelled each other out. Kato Dan frowned as he looked serious right now. "You actually can use lightning release as well, and it's quite strong as well. You're quite good." Allan looked at Dan's serious face and laughed softly, "Haha, what other ninjutsu do you have? Use them all, I will counter each of them." If Allan wanted, he could end the match instantly using his power of space. Although Kato Dan wasn't as famous as the Sannin, he wasn't that far away in skills at the current timeline. After all, his goal was to be Hokage, and one of the requirements of that title is strength. Kato Dan used fire release, water release, and lightning release successively, but Allan blocked each attack with one of his own. At this moment, Kato Dan wanted to try wind ninjutsu, since wind counters lightning. The wind attribute can sharpen anything and can cut almost anything in the world. It can also blow anything away, and increase speed, which made it the most flexible chakra nature and one of the rarest. Wind release, great breakthrough. Dan quickly released an attack, and facing it, Allan raised another earth wall. Kato Dan expected this already and used another wind jutsu. Wind release, vacuum sphere. The earth wall was broken and Allan quickly evaded the wind attack. Kato Dan used this opportunity to move fast and engage Allan in a melee fight. After dozens of attacks, Kato Dan successfully landed a kick on Allan's body, but to his surprise, Allan turned into a pile of mud. Mud clone? Dan's expression changed slightly. He never imagined that he was fighting against Allan's clone and didn't know when the change happened. He recalled the time Allan raised the last earth wall. Was it at that time? It was the only explanation that Kato Dan could come to, as there is no other way for Allan to replace himself with a clone. But he didn't know where the real Allan was right now. Dan looked around and suddenly found himself in a completely dark area. He could no longer see anything, even his own body. Is this the second Hokage's technique? The infinite darkness? As expected from Kato Dan, he actually knew of this technique. He was really surprised right now. He didn't expect that Allan would know a technique like this at all. Although Kato Dan was somewhat careless, he didn't underestimate Allan, but the latter went beyond his expectation. Although the infinite darkness deprives the vision of the victim, the user can see anyone inside, and it was actually real darkness. Bang! In the dark, Kato Dan was attacked by Allan's fists and kicks. Allan didn't use any ninjutsu as he didn't want to leave any injuries. Bang! 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 After a few punches, Kato Dan's face was swollen as he became furious. Allan was literally slapping him in the face. In the darkness, Allan said with a playful tone, "If you continue this fight, your face will turn into a pig's head." I don't know how Tsunade will react if she saw that face. Hearing Tsunade's name, Kato Dan got even angrier. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Kato Dan didn't want to keep the beating going, so he used a wide-range fire technique that could attack all directions. Since he can't see anything, Kato Dan decided to attack in every direction in hope of hitting Allan. Sure enough, Allan was forced to retreat facing Kato Dan's attack. Since he had an advantage, Kato Dan directly made another attack, and this time with wind jutsu. Wind release, great breakthrough. He was stupid enough to try and use the wind jutsu in hope of releasing the infinite darkness, but he can only be disappointed. Darkness isn't an existent object or matter. It's just the lack of light. Kato Dan calmed down and tried using the standard genjutsu release. By releasing his chakra outward to disrupt the illusion, he underestimated the power of the infinite darkness. If this is the case, I can only use that trick to get out of the illusion. Kato Dan gritted his teeth and stabbed his left palm with a kunai. Blood flowed out of his palm as his eyes regained vision and the darkness disappeared. Kato Dan was overjoyed. The pain can cause the illusion to dispel, and it did just that with the infinite darkness. He was just giving it a try and didn't think that he would be successful at all. Amazing, you actually used self-inflicted pain to break through the infinite darkness technique. At the same time, a kunai touched Kato Dan's neck. Allan sneered and said, "It seems like you've lost." "I don't think so," Dan said back. In the next second, Kato Dan's body turned into a log. Substitution? Allan was surprised. At the same time, a figure rushed from behind and kicked at him. However, Allan's body turned into a water puddle. Water clone? Kato Dan didn't expect Allan to know another clone. Allan's figure appeared from him with a kunai pressed against his neck. "This time, you've lost, right?" Allan sneered. Kato Dan sighed and said, "I lost." Although Dan still has a trump card, Allan could have finished him twice right now, so he didn't want to fight anymore. Allan put the kunai away and said, Since you admitted defeat, then you can't stop me from interacting with Tsunade in the future. No, it should be said that you can't stop Tsunade from contacting me. Dan nodded and said, although I will not stop you, I will tell you that I won't give up on Tsunade. Allan shrugged, whatever you want. Kato Dan snorted coldly and turned away. He was frustrated by the loss and that Tsunade will continue seeing Allan. Judging from this battle, Dan understood that Allan was quite strong. As Dan left, Allan's reward arrived. Thing. You successfully defeated Kato Dan. Reward, ninjutsu gift pack. Open it, Allan said. Thing. You opened a ninjutsu gift pack. You obtained water release, water dragon bullet technique, fire release, great dragon fire technique, wind release, great breakthrough technique. Allan was quite surprised as he didn't expect 3 ninjutsu at once and all 3 were from different attributes. It was a good deal to fight Kato Dan. Since it was the Shinobi World War, each village competed to add land to their territory. The 5 great villages were the leaders of the Shinobi world. And almost all of the villages were hostile to each other. In the northern forest in the Land of Fire, a team of ninjas from Konoha responsible for supplying to the front lines was suddenly in disarray as something exploded out of nowhere. The Chunin in charge detected the danger, but he was seriously injured nonetheless. At this time, dozens of enemies appeared, and the team, which was composed of 5 Chunin and 10 Junin, was defeated and all their items were lost. At the Hokage Tower, in the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi was currently sitting at his desk hearing the recent report. Hokage-sama, recently, one of our supply teams was ambushed near the border and all of them were killed and the items they had were taken. We still don't know which village did this. Immediately set up an investigation team, Hiruzen Sarutobi shouted as he slammed his hand on the table. Hokage-sama, we lack personnels, almost all Jonin are on the front lines. Hiruzen thought about it and said, go to the roots and ask Danzo to come over. Danzo arrived not long after and said, Hiruzen, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Hiruzen said, yesterday, one of our supply teams was ambushed near the border and we suffered heavy losses. You already know this, right? Danzo nodded, well, I received the report. Hiruzen said, I don't know who did it, so we're setting up an investigation team. At the same time, we need a new supply team. How many people? Shimura Danzo asked. The initial plan is to have 22 people, 15 in the supply team and 7 in the investigation team. In addition, they must be accompanied by 2 Jonin leaders to ensure the supply's safety. Hiruzen explained. Good arrangement. Shimura Danzo nodded. Currently, all Jonin are on the front lines and we lack personnels here, so I need to borrow some of you people. Danzo sighed helplessly, Hiruzen, most of my people are currently out on missions and I don't have many people left. I'm afraid that I can't help you. Hearing this, Hiruzen's face fell as he said, Danzo, it's not time to fight with me. The village is in a crisis now, do you really want to stand by and watch? Sarutobi was getting angry and Danzo quickly replied, Hiruzen, you misunderstood. As the leader of Root, I have always seen it as my responsibility to protect the village. I sent almost all my men out as the war started and I don't have many people at hand to send out. Hiruzen waved his hand as he didn't want to hear any more nonsense and asked directly, in a word, how many people do you have? Danzo pondered for a bit and said, well, I have 7 at most, and it will take 2 days to call them back. Hearing this, Hiruzen said, then the investigation team will be left to you. Danzo nodded and said, no problem. What about the supply team? You still need 15 people, where will you find them? Hiruzen said, we can only call some people from the front line. The items need to be prepared and it will take 2 to 3 days before the team can be dispatched. Danzo said, Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin, Minato's students, are still in the village and they can be part of the supply team. Hiruzen asked, Uchiha Obito was seriously injured before, how is he currently? I heard that after Tsunade's treatment, he almost recovered, Danzo replied. Well, I will arrange for the two of them to be part of the logistic team, Sarutobi said. Danzo said, besides those two, there is another person you can use. Who? Hiruzen asked curiously. Shimura Danzo replied, it's the guy named Allan. He's been in the village for a while, and I sent someone to investigate him before. Although we didn't find anything about him, his behavior was quite normal, and didn't do anything suspicious while staying here. I think that since he wants to stay in the village, he should do something about it. After all, our village doesn't support idlers. Hiruzen thought about it for a bit and said, okay, I will ask him when the time comes. If he doesn't agree, we can't force him to do it. Then I will go back first. Danzo left. After Danzo left, Sarutobi took his crystal ball and inspected the village. Using the crystal ball, Hiruzen could find anyone anywhere in the village, but he needed to know the target's chakra signature. Sarutobi Hiruzen often used the crystal ball to check the security of the village, and because he didn't know Allan's chakra signature, he had to look slowly through the village. As soon as he found Allan, Sarutobi left his office and went toward Allan, who was currently holding a fishing rod in his hand and leisurely fishing in a river. Since arriving in Konoha, Allan practiced ninjutsu almost all the time, but to relax, he started fishing. All his acquaintances weren't inside the village. Tsunade, Minato, and Kakashi were all sent to the battlefield. So when he was bored, Allan would come here to relax. At this moment, Allan noticed something and turned his head to look behind him. He felt a dark aura that made him feel uncomfortable in the woods. At this time, Zetsu, with his body warped in leaves, appeared on the tree. His lower body wasn't even fully emerged from it. Zetsu is the best spy in the Akatsuki, as he can be anywhere he wants without anyone even detecting him. Zetsu sneaked into Konoha on the orders of Madara to look into Allan. In fact, he was already infiltrating Konoha for 3 days, hiding in the dark, but he still found nothing on Allan. Let's go back. Black Zetsu said. Yeah. White Zetsu agreed. However, at this moment, someone said, since you're here, don't go back so quickly. Huh? Black Zetsu was taken aback and said, this is bad. Zetsu immediately wanted to escape underground, however, his movement halted as if he was restricted by something. I can't move? Black Zetsu was scared. This is. Zetsu seemed to have understood what happened and became horrified. This is. Space-time ninjutsu? The next second, lightning struck Zetsu's body as a hand penetrated his body, which severely injured him. At the same time, Allan appeared in front of him. Just as he was fishing just now, Allan discovered that it wasn't an Onbu from Konoha monitoring him, so he decided to attack. Normally, some Onbu would keep an eye on him, which he really didn't care about. He instantly locked his target with his space lock. With his current ability, he can lock the space from a distance of 500 meters. As a result, Zetsu couldn't move at all for a few seconds, which was enough for Allan to attack. And since Zetsu was severely injured and his body paralyzed by the lightning attack, he wasn't able to move and couldn't escape. He could only stay there for Allan to attack him however he wanted.